Hello and welcome back to week number 2 of the FNCS Invitational. I'm your host Zeke, and to start the show, we've got Sundown, we've got Clay. How you guys feeling today?
Feeling fantastic, Zeke. Glad to be back and excited to watch day 2 of this top 300 action to see who's going to make that grand finals. How you doing, Clay?
I am just as excited. This top 300 action is going to be so intense. I am looking for top plays, looking for greatness, and I hope we see it.
That's right. Well, if yesterday was any indication, we're in for some serious games. Now, of course, guys, we are getting ready to hop off the battle bus, but first, let's talk about the show, starting with that format of the tournament itself. Right now, we are in week number 2, where after in week number 1, 300 came through. Now only 80 will push through to grand finals. Next week, we've got that reboot round, where only the top 20 players will qualify and push through to grand finals. Take note of those games. 20 games, 10 today, or yesterday, 10 today. Reboot round will only be 10, so it's going to be a much more difficult climb for a lot of the players that did not qualify. Now, don't forget, this is a global competition. Every region are playing games throughout the day. We will only be covering Europe and NA East. They will be broadcasted with a small break in between, and same time. So always come back, hang out with us, or also go out and watch your favorite content creators. Stream on Twitch, YouTube, wherever they're at. It's great stuff. Let's talk about the format of the games themselves. Victory Royale, 33 points, and you can still earn points as far as 75th with at least a point on the board for you. And then every elimination is worth those meaty 4 points. Well, yesterday, we saw some players go after those. Maybe today will be the same, maybe it won't. We'll have to see as the games progress. Now, of course, a lot of these players are playing for that grand finals ticket, but don't forget there's also prizing on the line every single week between 1 and grand finals. Here is the breakdown of that region prizing. Very good stuff. You like to see that. You know, Sundown, I'm excited. I'm very excited. It's good to have you back. I know you weren't feeling well yesterday, but now you're back at it. We're going to get a lot of insight from you. So, how are you feeling about the day, man? Any insights as we get prepared to jump out the battle bus?
So the one thing that I kind of want to talk about, and what my goal particularly for today is going to be looking at who do we think out of this pool of players who make the top 80 in the groups are going to be contending for that #1 spot in the grand finals. We can assume that this is kind of the core group of who's going to be competing. So now we really want to start keeping an eye on that. And then number 2 is where in these regions is the line for hitting that top 80. Generally, we've seen it's right around upper 170s, lower 180s. I think Europe was predicted to be right around 188. I think it might end up bumping up to 190. But those are kind of going to be the 2 things I'm keeping an eye on. And also, Zeke, I'm gone for 1 day and you're threatening to show your feet on the broadcast? Come on, man.
I don't want to talk about it. Here we are, though. We're going to take a look at the standings of other regions. Don't forget, OCE, Asia, and ME are already done. Now, something to keep in mind, these are cumulative standings. We have them. Now, they are not final. We will be posting final standings over on our socials, so please give those a follow. Volks, though, 490 points, breaking a record up there, Clay.
Yeah, it was insane. The most victory royales. I think he got first both days as well. Folks played out of his mind. It was crazy. We watched some of the games. He didn't play as aggressive as you would think.
I mean, 64 eliminations. The thing that it ended up being was, we know OC is a very aggressive region. He took all of his defensive fights and he resolved them very quickly. However, people looking to third party and come in and continue to take those fights, it put so much loot and so much presence on him that he was able to continue rolling through. And the one thing you're going to notice is going through this list is a lot of names who we've seen before and would assume they would be up there. You have Colt, Radius, and Repulse, all very good, both solo and duo players who we've seen in OCE before. And again, we start looking at kind of where's that line at as we get up to 60th, 196, and we start seeing it is right around kind of that 170-ish, 180 mark. So players are going to have to know what they're going to need to do to perform today in order to make that grand final, which is where everyone really wants to be. It's about getting a shot to be in that top 100 and to prove your best of the best with Jesse, or X2 Fishy right there, which is also known as X2 Jesse, part of the X2 twins, squeaking in, as well as Alex and Sorif just on that backside. I know Pre-Depression is somebody you've seen a lot of, Clay.
Yeah, he did have a great running there, getting into that top 80. So again, not final, but within that top 80. So hopefully he's able to keep that when tiebreakers all sorted out. Moving over to Asia, we do have Crazy Raccoon's Huge Jappy on top with 49 eliminations, 392 points. Great games, but he only had 1 victory round compared to Rylex's 4 victory rounds, which were still not enough to push him to the top.
Yeah, the difference in elims there being the 16 elims relatively huge. And also Japan on top there, they had a great showing on that front page. I think they ended up having 8 of the top 10 players. So really good performance from them. You can see Swilliam, S, and another one of the Crazy Raccoon players, Rory, there in 20th, as we continue rolling through. Curran, who had a really solid week 1 performance as well, finishing in the top 3, able to push himself into that top 80 as now we get into the top 40 there. Kai and Skyfishy, another 2 players who we've seen before, and we start kind of getting a look at kind of where that threshold will be.
And you'll start to see it continue on down. You see Wakey Fanboy there in 45th. Didn't have the best game in eliminations, but still up there with the placement. So really working the format the way it was. You see Macy Fishy up there as well. Lucky Boy down there in 58th. Again, eliminations kind of varying. You see 35 eliminations there in 60th, but just it seems like they didn't get the placement points to really boost them up to the top of the leaderboard. Still within top 80, so still good, but again, not at that top, so don't know how they're going to transition that performance into a grand finals worthy performance.
Yeah, and you see Parallel Riley hanging out there in 70th. Interesting to see if that's the actual Riley. And then Do Rapai currently holding the 80th spot. Again, all the tiebreakers aren't finalized, so not guaranteed there, but knowing just right around kind of where the threshold is at, 173 points coming out of Asia. So congratulations to all those who has moved on as we now swap on over to Middle East, and we're going to get a look at kind of what the front page looks at. ASMR Toby taking first place, 54 eliminations, just behind Abu Fal at 56 for the top number there, but added in a victory royale and a little bit more consistent placements to take that top spot. You have Bark Soul just behind him there, and with 2 victory royales and 51 eliminations. Some other familiar names on the front page. You had 7 Mood and Unit. As we flip over to the next page, again, I think Middle East is probably the most consistent in terms of the top performers. You have Spy, Snowvax, Carito-kun, and Soriano all there as well. Nijby and Obito. I mean, this is basically a who's who of all the names we've seen before. Iexon, Adapter, Yonks, I mean, Hero, Faisal. Pretty much every one of the major names you'd expect to see from Middle East is going to end up being in this top 80.
And the question is, like One Shot, how are they going to be able to turn that performance into a grand finals? Are they going to play more elimination heavy like we see Mage in 34th with 41 eliminations? Or is it going to be like Mev, who played a little bit more placement oriented, only got 19 eliminations, but still able to make it into the top 80? We'll have to wait and see until grand finals if the playstyle is going to change a little bit, because we still do have the reboot round on that Friday, and I believe Middle Eastern is on a different day there. But again, it's going to be a little bit different when you finally get the top 100 and you're playing against the same 100 every single time.
And I think particularly Middle East is where you're going to see a significant shift, because there is so much of a difference there. As you can see in the 60th page, you have Took, another name who we've seen before with Rapid, from kind of that like top core group of 20 or so 30 top players in every single one of their FNCSs. As now on that last page, the last name I really wanted to see on there, you have Namfu, who ended up winning in squads, as well as RV. So pretty much every player you've seen there. I think once they get in the top 100, there's a distinct shift, just because there is such a drop off after that kind of initial group. But also, I would say I think the format becomes more interesting, and I feel like slightly more viable in terms of different gameplay styles as you get up to the higher level of players. With, like, yes, 4 points for eliminations, that's a lot of points, but as the players get harder, taking each one of those 50-50 fights is that much more difficult, and those 4 points become that much more rewarding, because actually closing out and finishing one of the fights is that much harder. And as you saw kind of going through the leaderboard, the difference of players who were playing for eliminations and ones who were able to play for placements and sneak a victory royale in there, they were middling and kind of swapping over each other on the leaderboard, but the ones who were able to put it together were consistently towards the top. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how that plays out today in EU and NA East, where I think kind of the skill disparity is probably the smallest from the top 300 to then the top 100.
Yeah, I think the other thing to consider too is, like, when we look at the leaderboards and we do see that some players have victory royales, you don't necessarily need a victory royale to kind of push you up in the points, right? We do see some players that seem to have a little, like, less than, like, eliminations of what you'd expect, but they're still up there. And it's probably because they're placing top 5 every game if possible, right? Like, second place in victory royale, it's only a handful of points, right? So if you can at least base that consistency and hit top 5 every other games, or even all of your games, you're going to make it through pretty well. Now, of course, guys, we are getting ready to hop in off the battle bus into game number 1. For you guys watching, thank you so much for taking the time to come hang out with us. If you want to stay up to date with all things competitive, FN Competitive over on Twitter is a great way to do that. Give that a follow. We've got plans on there for what Fortnite competitive looks like in 2020, and that's where we'll be posting all the final standings. Remember, the standings you do see today will not be final. We want to go back, double check all the tiebreakers, make sure all the points are correct, and the rest will be posted to social. Aside from that, I pretty much got nothing else from you. For me, I'm pretty much ready to get in the games. So what we're going to do is, I want to start with you, Sundown. What should we expect? Give me like a couple names, because the hard part here is we know that from open qualifiers to week 1, now there's only a handful of players, and a lot of the players that we were like hoping to see may not be here, right? They may be on the outside looking in. Who is maybe like a player you're hoping to see push through the top 80?
I'm really interested to see how Moki is able to play today. She had a couple of very strong pop-off games yesterday. She's feeling confident in herself, and honestly, she's also like come out and said solos is her best performing game mode. She likes trios as well, but if she's able to kind of keep that momentum rolling, I think she's going to start looking like a legitimate kind of top 20 threat. And when you're talking about that in Europe, that's moderately terrifying. That's putting you in like a very, very high stratosphere of players.
That's right. Clay, I'm coming to you. But first, let's set it into game with both of you. Let me hear who you'd like to see, Clay.
I said on Twitter, I want to see E11 item pop off. He had a very rough start to games yesterday, but I really think today, with the pressure, he can hop into that top 80. We'll have to wait and see if he can, though. It all has to align. The stars just have to be perfect for him to see if he's able to do it.
And right now we're heading on over to the Shark. The Shark, one of the almost like pivotal and kind of the key contestant points because of the mythic loot that is available there. And you can see Boyer actually the very first one to go down there in the feed, but a good push going through right away. And Shinken gets caught with only a pump, which is not a favorable exchange there. Ro going to be taking him down, getting the siphon as well as the barrels to get up to a quick 190 effective HP, and that plus the tack might signal him to try and go aggressive here. As you can see, the other players over there, and Item, one of the players you were talking about, is currently in a fight with Kasperza.
And an interesting fight indeed. The Shark, with the change over to the prison-like structure, a little bit harder to fight in. You've got the different levels now that are really, really, really separated with that little archway in the middle being open as Kasperza actually in a fight there with Ro as shots are going through. Kasperza getting a lot of damage off, but not following up on it as Rogue. Going to be able to disengage this fight. As you see, popping that big shield. Did drop the pump shotgun. Is going to go for that tactical in this engagement. A little bit better there. The green pump not really going to output that damage that you want it to output. So good engagement here for him. He did lose the trade initially, but that back off going to give him the more effective HP. Remember, Item is still lurking down there as well. And with these henchmen, it's going to reveal your position, so you have to waste ammo and waste HP on it, especially when Sky is pushing a player there. 2 players right above each other. This could get hairy really quickly, but Sky goes down, and that's going to be a big power play that people are going to have to play around. Ro dropping on down. We'll see what he's going to be able to do.
And he wants to try and get an angle and ambush this player before he can get sorted. But now going to get the drop on Item, and that was super awkward there. Not sure what Item was really doing. I mean, it almost looked like he looked away or went to like move something in his settings real quick, but Ro getting the drop on him there, just sneaky right behind him with the SMG. However, trying to get some pressure here, take whatever he can away. Does see a brand new shield pop. However, he's still at 100, trying to disengage with the grappler and just get out of dodge. Some great tags coming out from Ro, but also a headshot traded back. So nothing really he's going to be able to do there, as the grappler is going to allow Kasperza to just leave. He has what he came for. I mean, grappler and the mythic AR is more than enough from Sky's loot. Don't really need to double back and go for the vault, but you might as well commit for it if you have this much of an advantage.
And it also depends on where that zone is. Ro sticking around, going to put himself at more of a disadvantage because he can't really fight that engagement. He doesn't really have the ability to. As you hear a bow coming through, it seems like someone coming over nearby. Kasperza going to get some shots onto him, but just going to get a couple tags here. Is now looking to go back towards the vault, and we saw Ro kind of disengage from that area. Kasperza could go through it. As you see, his ammo not the best, his match not the best, and this is what happens when you drop at a mythic POI. You were saying, hey, I'm willing to take this mythic weapon, this mythic utility item for my lack of early game match, but Ro going to get a nice beam, and now he's going to go aggressive very, very quickly, but Kasperza going to get a very good disengage and drop down through the Shark.
Yeah, which means he's going to get access to that Volt here shortly, and if he's able to get that, it doesn't matter how much damage Ro was able to put onto him. There's so much utility available to him there. So you can see Ro desperately trying to get aggressive, but getting a little too aggressive. Got distracted there by that Sentry gun, as now he has him pinned in the Vault, but the question is, can he come out ahead? And he does. Kaspersa just gets pushed in, so Ro, winner of Shark in game 1. However, you can see somebody else on the map there rotating over. We'll see if they decide to go around the outside, as Ro will now have access to absolutely everything. He's going to be able to make sure he hits maximum shields and then take his choice of the spoils.
It was a really interesting play there from Kaspersa to go into that Volt. It's so one-dimensional in the fight. You can only really go back towards that porta potty to try to get out, and he really tried to take a fight that he just didn't have the HP to take as we move to Rezon. He's getting some nice edits there, and Avesta Zoid going to go down to a pump shotgun. Very good piece control there. Knew that player was on the stair. Couldn't really jump up there with the floor above him. So an easy elimination here for Rezon. As you see, his name is Floppa. He's got 4 to his name. We'll see how he plays out the end game.
4 floppers and the Slitfish, as well as 5 minis. Honestly, I think you head dead center zone. Either box yourself up on some nice bricks or find some wood and just chill. As
we swap over here to Luca versus Toos. Very, very big names here right outside the agency. Toos, I can only assume, has that mythic drum gun in his inventory, but shots coming through here from Luca. He's getting a lot of damage off. Doesn't have a lot to work with in his inventory, so you can tell why he's pushing this engagement. Wants to take that advantage that he just got and push it, but he does actually end up losing that HP advantage. Toos does have a suppressed AR there, but no drum gun in his inventory. So still at the play at the agency. His shots coming through, trying to break him down. Not going to be able to do so. Toos does only have 5 shotgun shots left and no builds remaining. He isn't going to get the edit, and that's piece controlled through his T. Luca going to go down. Toos going to come out the victor, and he just gets so many floppers just from that.
And the floppers we've seen already give you so many options in the late game. Every single one of those floppers end up being 5 seconds. You're able to hang out in the storm a little bit longer. So very efficient there. As you see, Refsguard is now rotating along the western side, just a little bit outside of Dirty Dock. So you can see him tracking through, opting to take the shot. 65 and then 233. So the question is, does he drop off and go? He does have a rocket launcher if he decides to. There's the decision. Drops off. First rocket goes through. Doesn't quite follow up. Has the reload. Second rocket down. Again, opting not to fire the tack shot off here, but continuing the pressure as we have 71 players remaining. Is going to take a little bit of a shot there, but opting now to just kind of disengage. So probably should have decided to drop down unless he was going to commit to it. However, getting good position here now, jumping out with a tack 91 shot into a 68, and Captain Wind will go down. So well played from Refsguard there. Looked a little sketchy for a second, but has plenty of heals and shields to get out of dodge.
Yeah, Captain Wind, unfortunately, going down. I think it's because he's not wearing his signature skin. You know, he's known for that gnome skin, and changing it up a little bit on this day, don't know if that's the way to go. We'll see how he recovers from this, as we do see Raxo get elimination. Blackie is going to get that wall there, but he's going to take a lot of damage there. You do see the minis in his inventory, so he will be able to pop those if he gets those metal walls to solidify. But shots are going through. A third party going to actually save him right now. That's going to take off all the shields of the enemy, and now gives him time to breathe for his metal walls to just build, and now he can go back on the offensive where he feels most comfortable.
And just trying to reset for a second here, as he has so much pressure coming from all around. You can see on that minimap 4 players around here. Does phase into that box, into the cone. Sees the other player below him trying to take the shield. Deciding whether or not to end up going through. Does have the pump into the SMG combo. The other player edits him down. Snuffles just gets outplayed. Blackie, no problem there, taking that one over. And now you can see Scalar and Tohaj off and fighting on the side. Blackie just opting to disengage, getting out to the side there, making sure he doesn't get pinned anywhere near that fight and wants nothing to do with it. As Ro now using the grappler to create some horizontal distance. Fex hears it right away. Is trying to get up on the high ground so he can kind of nullify that and still have an angle. Gets on the other side, close the distance. Brilliantly done from Fex. Lives with 6 HP, but gets right up into his face. Hits the pump shot, swaps over, and ends up landing enough shots with the legendary AR to make the difference. 6 HP, but has plenty because that was the looted up Ro who had the shark for free. So now picks up Sky's loadout to go along with the green pump and putting him in not a bad situation.
And it was interesting to see that he didn't keep moving towards Salty, keep moving away. He's got the grappler. He can close that distance very, very quickly. to the next zone. He did not have to take the engagement, making a very, very interesting play there, resulting in him being eliminated. Specs decided, hey, you know what? You shot at me first. I'm just going to finish this fight. I'm going to make the engagement. He made the aggressive push, and now he gets to reap the rewards of the Shark. You may have come out of the Shark as the victor, but if you can't take it into the late game, it does not mean much. As you see, Fledermoy's right here in the middle of your screen in an interesting position, right? He's in this box that's not really a box. He's kind of looking for anything. Smiley nearby as well as Pericle there. We do see Fika there on the other side of the mountain as well. A lot of players really congested up right here at this one peak of the mountain. And, you know, if it pools to them, they're going to be a good spot. But if they have to go down, they're going to have to use a lot of mats to get down there.
Yeah, this is actually, so this is my drop spot. This is one of my favorite spots on the entire map. I love landing over at Gorge because it gives you a ton of options. One of the key things, particularly about rotating around here, is knowing where you can use the water and how to get down, and the ability to kind of use that zip line without getting caught. With that being said, a nice little ambush coming through right away. It's 62-62, 31. Axial just absolutely obliterating Caxi. You can see him immediately popping a flopper to try and get some form of effective HP back. But 16 Axial is looking to go aggressive. You can see him walling off the side, using the tack to put some damage on the wall, phasing himself in one, phasing himself in two, but good disengage so far from Caxi, putting plenty of metal walls between him and the opponent, owning that cone flip, but not quite enough. Axial able to take advantage of that nice little ambush he set up there, and unfortunately for Caxi, he's going to have to queue back up.
That was really, really good. Axial knew what pieces were his. We say it all the time, piece control. But he really backed Caxi into one box. He didn't allow him to get the time to make multiple metal boxes to keep the distance from him. It was a very, very good play there for them. As we're back over to Gambit's Juice, who now 2 eliminations in a good spot as well. Has that legendary suppressed AR. They're very, very good at getting that ambush type elimination, but when you full spray it, you got to be a little bit more careful with it. Overall, in a really good spot. What I am concerned about is the player up above and the fact that he's kind of at the bottom of that mountain that is near that gorge.
Yeah, this is a little bit of an awkward situation, particularly because once you're pinned in here, it can be very tough to get out. Additionally, you can see him desperately trying to farm as much metal as he can. And while there is pretty much this entire place is made full of metal, it's really inefficient per swing. Like, you honestly, I think you get like 1 metal per each swing. So you're making a ton of noise. Specky's going to know he's here. And realistically, what Specky should be doing is just putting cones down and preventing twos from even coming even remotely close up without breaking through anything additionally. But we'll see. Twos already sitting on 2 eliminations. We have 62 players remaining as we're heading into the second zone. And Twos also looks like he'd already carved out his exit path. So nothing too much to worry about there, as he's almost maxed on all materials. So pretty well played. They're both just kind of keeping respectful distance of each other. So now we kind of zone out. You can see a couple of the other players in the lobby. We got Tokar and Buhai over there. Blackie, Lobetti, and Vapsexy, Dab as well, hanging out over on the side. Tus and Kazakhs down by that. I believe it's a ghost space now.
I believe you are correct. I believe a ghost space there. As we do move over to Vap here, his inventory looking a little bit light in terms of everything. Ammo, shield, not an elimination as he takes down Lobetti there just in the moment that we swap over. And now we'll see what he's going to be able to get, but he takes a lot of damage going for the loot and no shield there for him. So it does find 1 mini, but overall an effective trade. I don't know if it's going to be it as shots are coming through. This player being right on top of the box, going out and above, really good distance to put that vertical layer in between. You see continuously making boxes, continuously moving, and he decides, you know what, I'm out. I'm going to launch that out, but getting sprayed as he's rotating, actually going to land right on top of a player. It has to be careful because players around know he's weak. No one is launch padding this zone unless they are very, very weak, but he drops down. Shots coming through. Harpoon trying to be used. Vap's going to get a nice chunk of damage, but it's not going to be enough. HP still going over to the other player. He's still pushing his advantage. Those shields are going to be cracked. We'll see what he's going to be able to do. Vap's pushing this advantage all of a sudden he didn't know he had.
Yeah, and you can see now Forsikai been pushed out here. So Vaps probably has enough space. However, we talked about before, he was forced to use that launch pad and kind of get around to the other side of the mountain. But he only had the effective 1 shield going through there, trying to get a refresh and dropping down this player's box. But they did a good job to disengage, knowing it seemed like Vaps was pretty desperate there. However, he was able to shield up a little bit, so should have the effective lead. As now you can check that bottom right-hand corner, third zone coming in we're hanging out pretty much in the middle. We got a bunch of people towards the outside, but there's not going to be a ton of action minus the fights that are going on right now. The one thing we have to consider, let's go back, let's take a look at the format. 10 games over the course of both of the days, 20 games total. Everyone kind of knows what the threshold is going to be. You know you have to end up at around 185, 190 points coming out of Europe to make kind of that top 80 group. So you know exactly what you need to do in order to accomplish that. Many people are going to take their first game, they're going to try and play for late, they're not going to be too aggressive, and they're going to see what they're able to do and come out from.
As we swap over to Ray's Yachi 32, obviously throwing node to Kiriachi, he does have the mythic drum gun, so that is where the drum gun is on the map. It is down, as we see, looking like he may go and get aggressive on to Kiko there. Hoop 3K in the background a little bit further away. He does have one rocket, so he can get involved. He can get down into that box if he needs to, but doesn't really need to right now. I am concerned, though, if Zone does not pull his way, what he's going to do. He does have his one launch pad. Obviously wants to recycle somebody else's and maybe rotate on foot, but his lack of mats is really concerning because he really only has soft mats here.
Yeah, but he'll have plenty of time. Like I said, it doesn't look like a ton of people are looking to fight right now. Everyone's just kind of looking to chill. They want to get kind of a measure of where this next zone is, as this zone, being zone number 4, is going to be really tight. And then we're going to end up in a position where people are going to start having to take shots. Storm Surge will come in effect if 50 players are still remaining going into Circle 5. And we can see pretty much everybody is being driven up on top of this mountain. And with a lot of people not inside the zone, there could be opportunities for eliminations to come out within this next rotation. Again, 9 players will need to go down here eventually, but Balasconi just trying to make a quick little rotation. I'm not necessarily sure about having this pump out when you're just out in the open here, but as you get close to the builds, that is going to be the weapon he's going to want to just keep an eye on. He's just trying to shadow through some of these old builds and walk his way into the zone. Goes to try and build up on top of this player, immediately gets coned out. This player going aggressive into his box, and he says, "Excuse me? Kiko, what are you doing, man?" Balasconi picking that one up, getting a nice little refresher, and also now his priority edge of zone, since he'll be able to tunnel out with their combined 1,500 builds, so he should be in a good spot.
He's in a really good spot, and that was a very good counterplay to what happened, as you do see Ray's right nearby, as well as Tiago there. Tiago getting beamed up. This may be what Ray's needs to capitalize. You see multiple players looking for that. Balasconi even looking for the action as well. Even though he doesn't need it, he just wants those points. He wants to get up towards that top 80 threshold. Is now looking to get in the box side engagement, decides against it, realizes, hey, you know what? I'm in a really good spot. I'm above Storm Surge. I don't need to get that involved as players are continuing to fall. You mentioned that 50 threshold is more and more going down. RPGs being used. Yura on a very, very low amount of HP. You do see Tohai kind of ratting his way through the bottom. They're able to make it in as well. Scalar nearby. Vaps is still alive in this box that he initially launched into. We do see Scalar looking in that cone, getting that information. Tohai may be in an awkward spot here.
Potentially, but he should be able to just push in. Again, it all depends on who's below that Storm Surge threshold. That's almost everyone, minus a couple players who just need to get inside. You can check in the bottom right-hand corner, that white circle representing kind of the safe zone. Almost every single player is inside of it. So when the storm closes, all of the action is going to be on those Storm Surge players. The way Storm Surge works is it punishes the players who have been the most passive, the ones who have done the least amount of damage to the opponents. You will take 25 damage for each one of those ticks where it comes down. You can kind of outlast it and just hope other players get eliminated, but it's incredibly difficult to do, and you'll start to see kind of those purple lightning bolts come down, and those players are going to be the aggressors here, as they know they're going to have to go forward. And instead, Skylar just goes forward into Dab's box. He says, hey, I don't even need that. I'll give somebody a favor and get them out of dodge, as he does the good old Clay special there. Double harpoons through right into a pump.
I love the harpoon, and I love that more pro players are using it. Getting into that box, it's a door opener. People get caught off guard when you're able to. So it really, really shows really good skillful and mastery of an item when you're able to use it like Scalar just did. Does find a recycled launch pad, does get a nice mid-ground tarp here. Only thing I'm worried about is that he's built out of wood, and you see immediately switches over to that metal so he can let it build up and sit and wait and look for eliminations. As he's gonna, I believe, pick one up right there. That's gonna be a big beam, and he does. Specky Fin gonna go down. What a huge catch there by Scalar, just picking up everything. Unfortunately, not gonna be able to reap the rewards of that elimination, but the reward for him is those 4 extra elimination points.
Which is honestly more than he could have hoped for. If you fire off 4 shots towards somebody and get an elimination, that is a very high value. Like, yes, you're not able to pick up on any of those mats, but he's already in the 5th zone. We've already seen 5 players drop on this rotation. We have a number of players already come in. Now we have Fex, who is able to pick up that mythic loot that he took away from Ro on the outside. You said Tohash was in a tricky spot. Well, it looks like he was able to Tohash his way out of it, as Luis ends up going down there. Some good shots coming out. Fex's linear was apparently better than Yura's, as he's able to catch in there with a really nice angle. Also had that mythic AR, so going to have that super fast fire rate, the ability to pressure on walls, as Nikeva goes down to Buhai there in the top left corner of the screen. You can see now 6th zone will be revealed, and everyone's just going to hang out for a second as we see who has priority and who's going to be able to rotate. We get a look at the lobby right now. Rexo, Floppa up on high. Yotus, Tokar, and Birkilino just below that. Rexguard, Blackie, and Laziras. And Covado, Luisa, Smiley off on the side. Buhai taking a fight right now in the corner with Tus. But Tus has priority on this zone. Good edit out into the pump. A couple 33 tags. Gonna look to go aggressive here. Potentially try and finish it. Sees the players already looking to disengage over. Is probably gonna look to find another target, considering every single person in the zone is gonna have to rotate him. Storm Surge Special going off here. The next magic number we're looking for is 30 players remaining. So a lot of action, a lot of people are gonna fall here very shortly. As Tus tries to get in on the action, he does, picking up Fika there with a nice little pump into AR swap, and you can hear everyone taking to the sky as the launch pads are coming out.
And I was really worried for Juice here that he was not going to get the swap off with the pump and the suppressed AR there, but he's making it work, making this layer changes very, very flawlessly, doing very, very well to stay alive. But what is concerning here for Juice is that he does not have a lot of mats. Now, he does have 4 floppers, so he does not need to worry about that too much, as we do see Matzo going down, Flex going down, Belasconi going down, Snazy going down. A lot of big names going down here in this zone. Fletamoy's even falling as well. Juice pulling what I call Savage Classic, sitting in that cone, waiting in these in-game circles is going to catch a lot of players off guard, like Tiago there, who was just trying to make an edit in an uncomfortable situation. As Juice is going to find a launch pad there. Don't think it's advisable to take that. Actually trying to help the player down below take it, but has decided against it. 25 players remaining. Juice looking for any opportunity he can to take this launch pad. Is going to be scuffed a little bit, and he does end up taking a decent amount of damage to it, and he is going to be able to make it out, though, to see what he does in this rotation.
He needs to not get hit out of the sky. As long as he can avoid that, he has the floppers, he has the big pots in the minis. He's far enough ahead of zone where he should be able to get himself almost up to that effective 100-100. You can see there, he's just going to rock with the 179 here, trying to push forward and catch somebody tunneling across them. You hear that grappler over on that side. That should be for easy. But Tus, knowing that he has 3 more floppers, is looking for the other players. This is what we talked about in the early game. Each one of these floppers is an additional 5 seconds. We can go hang out in the storm. Tus finding a nice little refresher there. Picks up a heavy snipe to help break through the builds. Does have 2 more, but he needs to be careful about making his way back into zone here, as the players are going to be looking for him. The diagonal pull helping him out there, as we now have our top 13. Remember, with that point threshold, the top 10 is really where you want to get to, as now we're on to 11. You can see 4 effects hanging out in the storm over there. Again, we know he had a bunch of floppers, as well as we have our top 10. Tus trying to push forward, trying to phase into this box and get in this player's face. Using the pickaxe, jumps on through the player, disengaged out the side, but the 81 tag is going to force it off, as Tus with 5 elims is desperately trying to find his way around the backside of the zone. A nice headshot coming out there, as that player ends up going down and exploding himself. So not sure if that was intentional or somebody blocked him off there, but Parenko going down, as Tus now in the top 6, and he's playing just like a little sneaky beaver. Only 1 build left. Can't take the tick from the storm. Is able to push forward. Can he finish the elimination? And he does. That's Buhai, and that's a huge refresh, getting him just enough mats, as Fex picks up a double, and then a great double edit coming out from Tus, and we have our 1v1. It's the Shark. Oh, it's not the Shark player. Julian Com up top, and then Tus on the low ground, Clay.
Julian come up there. Juice on the low ground. Juice has made an incredible play. He found Ibuhai after getting that initial damage onto him, so already had the advantage shots coming through. RPG dropping him down. Was wondering if Juice may have made a mistake by not taking that first RPG, but finds it with an elimination. This going up the hill is going to be very easy for Juice to maintain the high ground and pick up the victory royale, as RPGs are raining fire from above. This should be it. The last RPG going to come through. Actually not going to connect, but the zone going to do it for him. The victory royale going to Toos, and he picks up 8 eliminations as well.
Well done from Toos there, closing the game out with 65 points total, 33 from the victory royale, the rest coming from those 8 eliminations, 32 there. As we just take a look at that dinosaur going through, that is quite the architectural building and quite the rotations those players had, Zeke.
Oh my gosh, guys. I wasn't ready. You know, it's like, all right, you know, classic EU, we're going to start slow on game 1. Toos said, no, Zeke, just check this out. I'm going full send. There are so many moments back there where it's like just like yesterday where I thought, okay, is Toos going to make it? What is going to happen here? And he's just like perfectly navigating every single situation. Like, what kind of awareness do you have to like not only jump back in the storm, find additional floppers, come out in mid ground tarp, be like, oh, some guy shooting at me, don't worry, I'm going to waterfall off my left, and then take time, not wall myself up because I know where everyone else is relative to me. Like, Toos is insane. Like, so now, what is this guy on? What is it? Tell me the secret. I need to know.
I mean, honestly, that just looked like he's had a solid amount of situations where he's kind of been pushed to that regard, which might speak a little bit to kind of how EU plays. Is just so often you have so many people flying at you that you very often endgame you're playing with literally the materials you have around you and what you can scavenge from other people. And I was most impressed when he dipped out in the storm with 10 HP and managed to get back in. I think in 99.8% of circumstances, most other players would have been eliminated by the storm there. But he managed to time it out perfectly, come back in, and then win 2 quick fights to give himself an advantage. And the way he closed it out was really textbook as well.
I want to say reminiscence of 72 hours, doing it way back in the day before you had that 1 second storm buffer, right? So Toos on something, you know, a little bit different here this morning.
Man, showing mastery over every aspect of the game. Now the question for me is now this: is this enough gas to push him in at top 80? Because remember, we do have cumulative standings today, so we don't know how many standings he ended with yesterday. But do you guys think after this first game, is that enough momentum to kind of help push him through the rest of the day? Does he need to keep turning it up? Because for a lot of these guys, it did kind of look like, hey, this is a reset, right? Like, I was on it yesterday, we're reset, fresh day. For Toos, it's like, no, it's basically like he just picked up game 11 after game 10 ended.
I mean, I think the key thing to note here is that threshold we talked about, how it's kind of been the high 70s, lower 80s. I think probably for Europe, we're going to look at probably the higher end of the 80s, but he just got a third of that in one game. So I'm assuming he did relatively well yesterday as well. But even if he didn't, he's going to be in a spot where as long as he was able to get maybe 40 or so points yesterday, you're looking at 80 points in 9 games. Like, that should be easy for him.
I definitely agree. That's a 65-point game there for him. He's looking really good today.
All right, guys. Well, I don't want to keep you waiting too much longer, so let's hop into the next game of EU. Take it away, gentlemen.
And now hopping right on board here over at the Slurpy Swamps with Flame. He has that C4 that we typically will only see for the early game aggression to kind of really get out right away. Going to break as many of these barrels as possible to get up to that effective 200 HP, and he's actually being really aggressive towards this player. So not sure if he's able to tag him early on or realizes he doesn't necessarily have the same shields or weapons that he does, but Flame looking to go very much so aggressive here, breaking in on the wall, immediately going to have it taken away from him, trying to use the tack to break it down, but it seems like he's not really going to let this one go at all. This player doing everything he can to try and disengage.
Yeah, trying everything, and we'll wonder if it's going to be enough as we see Fast Sniper and Podesai go down. A lot of shots missed there from his opponent. Flame capitalizing on it. And that's Nyrox going down.
Yeah, so that had to be a situation where I think Flame probably beat Nyrox to a chest or something and then got the initial information on him, because Flame was just dogging him. He was all over him. Now as we swap on board here, we have Lazen, who was the EU Duos console/mobile champion. Ended up having a really solid performance in week 1. Didn't necessarily see where he was at yesterday, but over here at Dirty Docks with about 4 other players hanging around, you can see him trying to get a little bit aggressive, having that blue pump and the epic AR as well as plenty of shields early on means he's going to want to look for trades and look for picks, and he's trying to get a little sneaky right here.
Ooh, and sneaky he does, as we see item going down again yet early. Hopefully he'll be able to come back from that. Nice wall take there, and that's going to be Captain Win going down early yet again.
Oof, that's rough. That's twice. Captain Win, I apologize, man. Just not necessarily being on stream is probably unlucky for you there. I was getting caught out early on. Lazen just rolls right through him. Again, that initial 70 tag when you don't have a ton of shields is going to do a ton of damage, but immediate fight also breaking out, as now we hop on over to Coolest Carrot FY9 over at the agency. You have Pirka Siberia also over there. You can see who ends up having control of the lower level, as Siberia just gets ripped apart. So great angle from Coolest Carrot there, trying to get some pressure on him. He does have that drum gun as well as the legendary silence AR, so I think this is only going to end in one of one way, which is the drum gun going burr. You can see the amount of pressure he's able to put on the walls here is just immaculate between these two weapons.
And Coolest Carrot yesterday did not have the best, but did not have the worst of games. He ended about 111 place, around 70 points or so there for him. Is he's actually going to get this wall. This is going to be really good for him. He can just continue to push in. The banana not looking too good right now. Is trying not to get split, but the Coolest Carrot's going to come out on top. Vegetable is better than fruit in this situation. We'll see how he does going through. We also want to point out Camo going down there to Falconly is very, very huge for the lobby.
That is massive for the lobby there. And Falconly has also been somebody, the French player, been playing relatively well recently. He's had his ups and downs, and great execution on that. And then the back to back. So the first one was absolutely brilliant execution with the pump into the swap. And the second one is just, you know, holding RT with the drum gun as you drop down on top of the second player, and just the benefit of the top down angle and the headshots ripping through there. I think that was 2 headshots and then 4 body shots. So Coolest Carrot, one really good play, and the other one just being the benefactor of circumstances there. As now we swap on board with Calify and Atlantis Majin. Majin, the player who's been around the scene forever. I think he's sort of kind of been making comeback. Hadn't really been seeing a ton of him recently, but popping up here in the FNCS Invitational and going to the absolute sky. However, he's on 34 HP. He does have plenty of utility to kind of pop that back up if he can get enough time to use it. You can see him creating enough space and now disengaging because the player is trying to knock him down and immediately building back up, but does get coned off. You can see he's no longer the aggressor in this situation. He needs to be careful of his build totals too, because he's at 4, and that's not really enough to get down safely. Oops.
And that's another way to use the harpoon very effectively, dropping your opponent with it. Imagine what you could tell with the way his body language was. He knew he was just going to be eliminated there, and it was really unfortunate when you're in that situation and you don't have any builds and you're falling. You're like, oh, can I catch something? Can I hit something? But no, he just couldn't. So he's going down a little early. Dirty Doc's action being very, very, very aggressive early on. You move over to Krusty, who's getting tagged up very aggressively. Player in his box, shots coming on through. Krusty down to 31 HP. Now he does have time to pop the flopper. Going to pop 2 just as a precautionary, as Castery taking down Flame in the elimination feed. Krusty trying to stay alive here. Does have time to pop the minis. Has put enough distance, but is not feeling safe about it and realizes, hey, I don't own that wall. This pressure continuing to come through on him. Is Castery going down as well. A lot of action happening around the map. We'll see if Krusty's going to be able to get out. Nice edit there for him to get towards the high ground and continue to put the layers in between. This wood base going to be very easy to break, but minis going to be popped here. Player getting inside. Shots coming on through. Has yet to take any damage, but he gets a 165 pump there as more pressure going through. A very good play from him.
Yeah, it's really hard to be aggressive into a legendary tac shotgun. You can do everything right. You can phase into the build. You can have your crosshair lined up. But Krusty knew where you were coming from, had the angle, and had the superior weaponry. He also has a lot of utility that is very quick to consume. So despite the amount of pressure with the Siphon and the Flopper, who's able to eat, he's back up to 148 effective HP. Not going to pop anything additional, but right now, KS1 Light trying to put some pressure onto him, continuing to work around the outsides. And really, they're both investing a lot in this fight, so he feels like he needs to get the refresh here. He's only sitting on 40 mats and not the best of weaponry. Does have the blue pump, so he can hit that one-shot, 200 pump headshot if he's able to hit all of the pellets. But the barrier of execution there compared to the legendary tac is going to be really hard. especially right now, because you can see on the other side the player's trying to hold kind of that triangle edit, and he's waiting for him to poke through the stairs. If he's able to get that wall and then poke through, he's just going to blast him.
We'll see if the box fight practice has paid off. Edit going to come through, stair going to be flipped. Both players taking shots. They knew where they wanted it to be, but not hitting the shot. One player crouching behind the triangle edit, waiting for the opportunity for K-Slide to make a mistake there. Krusty trying to just bait it out, trying to wait it out, trying to make sure that, hey, you're making a mistake. This is a chess match. It's back and forth. It's back and forth. You're planning out your moves one step ahead of what you think your opponent will do, but your opponent's doing the exact same thing, and this is all piece control. Who's got the pieces to make the elimination happen? Going up, K-Slide going to be able to maintain the high ground here. Does have 24 mats, so he can still maintain it, but what's concerning is the amount of players moving through, and I think that's what he realizes as his opponent is disengaging as well, trying to just push him back into the house, getting some tags up as well. 30 damage off. That's going to give him the indicator that he can continue to push this fight. He's got the pressure down. Benny going to be popped. Nice edit here. He's going to get the back wall, and I think this is going to be it here for his opponent. Elimination might come through here. Edit's going through. K-Slide missing shots. Walls being taken. Walls being broken, and eliminations coming through. Krusty is going to fall.
I don't know how worth that is from both. Honestly, I think they might have both just griefed both of their games, considering they went down to a combined maybe 70 materials, and at this point you're not going to have a lot to farm up, so he's going to need to make a push. Right now we talk about interesting decision making. We have MXRR of Solari and Mr. Savage. They're hanging out in the storm, kind of committed to this fight, but 100 Thieves Mr. Savage is saying, okay, well, let me know how that one works out for you. He'll be the benefactor there. Does have a launch pad if he needs it, but also has a med kit, so should just be able to walk his way most of the way out of the storm. But that was a deep, deep team fight. Or storm fight, apologize.
I would not expect it from any other region other than EU. It's kind of a staple. There's at least one storm fight per match that's all the way out in the storm, completely not even close. And Savage coming on top as we swap over. This is Putrick, who changed his name to Mobile Player. So not actually a mobile player there, but in a good spot to make something happen. What I am concerned about here for him, that lack of AR ammo, but it looks like he's about to get set up for an elimination. Thought he could go for that beam there, but not going to. Did have a decent day yesterday, obviously looking to continue to solidify if he gets into that top 80 or not, as we get a nice view here. Steelix, one of the few players that is kind of up and coming here in the scene. We'll definitely look to see if he can improve on his performance as we move over to Sundown's pick, Moki, to see how she's doing.
Moki right now is stalking on Birch, trying to get an angle for some shots. Does have that 50 pot if she needs to use it, but looking to try and get a refresher or a tag somewhere else. This player is doing a good job of covering his back, making sure not giving an angle. Moki doesn't necessarily want to open up here, just trying to look to rotate a little more centrally and safely to zone, which is probably the intelligent decision given the number of players who aren't on the edge and are already close to the middle, especially considering she doesn't have a ton of excess material. So going to opt the box up right over by this stone, do whatever she can over here. Currently sitting on 6 points so far, 0 eliminations in this game, so we can assume that this is her second game right now. So probably had a little bit of a tough first one going on there. But with that being said, third zone will be revealed. We already saw the number of players who are kind of clumped up over there, as now Nuka and Keelix RR taking 2 fights over here. Nuka trying to do everything he can to kind of create some vertical distance, get some time to eat some of those shields. He does have Brutus's minigun as well as the epic tack, so he's pretty set to kind of take these close range fights. However, a really good job so far from Keelix not to give Nuka the space to pop that big pot. He keeps hearing it over and over again. He knows he wants to take it. Instead, just going to burn the launch pad and said, nah, I'm out of here. Peace.
And that's what you have to do when you have that extra launch pad. You realize, you know what, I can use it anytime that is really, really detrimental to me being alive. And he decides, you know what, I will burn that launch pad. What is very concerning, he does have Brutus's minigun, so he can hop onto a player if he needs to. But he's got 24 builds, and so now he didn't hear the launch pad come out from his opponent there. Needs to try to look back and hold that opponent, really needs to try to capitalize on it. His opponent is going to look to do the same thing because they know they're weak. They know that they got that raw HP damage, that white HP was shown. They know if unless they've got floppers, they can still put this pressure down. Brutus's minigun, though, being applied that pressure back. We'll see how Noka is going to be able to do. He's got a player just above him as well. That player actually not going to end up seeing him, and he's going to be able to just escape right by. Really lucky rotation here from Noka, going to keep him alive for the time being, but I think that player does end up seeing him as Noka sees the builds there. Got a good rotation, third zone coming on in. See how he's going to be able to make it into these late games, because right now it is not looking too good here for him.
No, he's honestly in kind of a tough position, but luckily able to just kind of rotate over, pick up whatever he needs to kind of pick up, trying to top himself back off on whatever mats he can safely get, because he can see only has a total of 33 builds, with almost all of that being wood. And as we get into kind of this next zone where Storm Surge could potentially come into play. Nope, I lied. We're at 60, not 70. Ignore me on that regard. But he still is desperately going to need to get some form of materials, because only having the one launch pad, having to burn the other one, he's not really going to be able to guarantee a safe rotation in the next two safe zones. So he needs to either find materials now and then get central, or find a refresher on the edge of the zone.
We'll see what he's going to be able to do. Zone does pool in his favor here, so he's just walking out in the open. This is very risky. He does have a big shield, so I don't think he's too worried about it. But he's got that minigun, and honestly, walking out with the minigun, it definitely is the play here. It does have that little bit of a charge up time, but it's so powerful and so punishing. As I think he may be finding Frenzy Fishy here as Wall's trying to be taken to Noka. I think really just wanting to farm up, does not want to take this engagement, knows there's a player on the other side, which is why he hasn't fully broken that wall. You see him just trying to get any engagement on this other player that he can. Nice to go up this layer and just continue to farm out. I don't think he's fully aware that that player is 100% there. I think, yeah, he may be, I'd say 95% sure he knows there's another player. His wall is now going to be taken. He knows for sure as a player down below trying to take the other wall. Ooh, Noka could get the backside wall, and he does. Shots coming on through, and Frenzy Fishy tried to get a different wall, and unfortunately that lack of attention there on that pertinent wall gives Noka exactly what he needs to get back into this game.
Yeah, now all of a sudden he's in a situation where he has floppers, shields, minigun, epic tactical shotgun, and there's not a whole much else he could really ask for, as we have Mitro and NXS Z Andy over on top of each other, row just beneath him as well. Mitro currently sitting on 2 points. Does have the flopper and the shields, as well as the epic tactical shotgun, so set up pretty well the box fight over here. You can see the third zone is moving in, and most players have made their way into the safe zone already.
And so those 2 points coming via the placement points. I believe this definitely is his second game there. You see loadout looking really good. This is kind of a style we've seen a lot in EU more now. If you don't get that minigun, the RPG, the heavy sniper, the 3 heals with 2 gun loadout is something a lot of people are running now. As you see a lot of names that are really big here. Moki, Falconly, Savage was there, Mitra was there, so many big, Varox was there as well. So many big players, people like Yahtzee, have really got to fight and just try to outperform here. Don't know how they did in game number 1, but in day number 1 or in game number 1 if this is their second game, but they're looking really good, in a great position to pull this next zone, as we'll see where it's going to go. He actually doesn't pull it. It pulls a little bit more to his east, but got a perfect rotation of zone. It's very clear for him to make this early rotation, but I like that he's going to sit back and try to get any elimination that he can. Just get those tags. Storm Surge is not really going to be a factor here. We will see it next zone as long as 50 or more players are alive, but easy rotation there for him, as we see SR4 rotating right behind.
Yeah, and SR4 tries to sprint right into Vatsy's box, but Yahtzee says, gotcha! Rolled all 6s, no problem there. Gonna pick that one up. Gets the heavy snipe, gets a nice little upgrade, but still hurting in terms of the shotgun category. When your choices are between a gray tack and a green pump, you know you're not really winning there regardless. You can see M10 Aim Sons over on the side. Yoa looks like that's the... No, never mind. I was about to say, looks like that was a grappling player, but didn't hear the sound there as T comes over and immediately boxes up as well. You can see everyone trying to get priority on this rotation. Lanier taking some shots there, but you have Godsend Snappy just below over there, the squad FNCS winner, and he's been playing incredibly well recently as well, trying to push forward there, getting some good shots and angles. But honestly, taking the worst of that trade, you can see the horde of players rotating into Salty Springs right now. Everyone desperately trying to pack in on the edge of that zone, with probably about 20 players who are on the outside looking in. Snappy, what a great heads-up shot right there. Avesta gets sent back to the void. He goes over to make sure he's able to pick up that refresher, as we do hear the storm surge warning come out, so 2 more players will need to go down. Probably shouldn't be too much of an issue there, as everyone is still finishing their rotation. Some nice tunneling coming through from T-Lek. However, Kravit right on the backside of that, as T-Lek is desperately trying to find a little bit of space. Only 2 more players need to worry about the storm surge threshold. T-Lek going to put himself way above it there, and he's also just going to take out KPZ. Says, no, I'm not satisfied with just the tags. Give me the full refresher. Give me all the mats. Opts to pick up the rocket launcher as well, so he's going to be in a good spot, as we're about to see where the 5th zone in the half-in, half-out will be.
And I want to point out, this is a very good bait here. Not able to capitalize on it. Really needs to be careful about where the walls are edited there, as he does re-edit them to protect him a little bit. I also want to point out, Snappy yesterday had an amazing day. He ended 4th, and that's exactly where he ended last week as well. So things for Snappy really starting to get on board. We'll see exactly what he's able to do as we move over to Kylix. He's got a player nearby, decides to rotate all around the backside zone. And this dead side of zone rotation is actually really good here for him, because there's not that many people. He really just has to worry about one person that's sitting in front of him, and the one person sitting behind him is now he's doing what I like to call the wash machine, is everybody's shooting him all around. He's trying to build in every circle that he can. Does not have any floppers, so he can't get that HP back up. He does have minis in the big shield, so effectively he can get it back up, trying to make the edit. He does have the epic pump shotgun. We'll see if he's going to be able to hit anything as Kezik's going to go down. Kylix is going to find some reprieve there as RPGs are coming in on the other players. The layers that he's built up here going to provide him that little bit of distance between Rezos and Zenit as they are launching away. Kylix able to skate away with a decent amount of HP as he's just going to hop on to Rayos there. A very heads-up play there from Kylix.
Really well done there, and then to immediately rotate over the side. He's going to use that tree as a blocker, so he didn't really have to low rotate. He's getting priority now as we have getting closer to that top 40. Again, reminder on the point threshold, every 10 places will equal a point until we get up into that top 20. Then it's every 5. Then once you're into the top 10, it's every single point. Mitro picking up 2 great elims there, but Kylix, really good job with the heavy snipe wall replace to immediately get onto Naka. And that's kind of the disadvantage we talked about when it comes to the minigun. Yes, it is only a slight wind-up time, but that slight wind-up time is enough for Kylix to drop into the box behind you and steal that one wall. Yes, you can edit the cone back in place, but you've already lost the piece control. You're not going to be able to disengage away, and Kylix is now going to come out the victor there. 38 players remaining. He has tons of materials, and he just pulled priority on the zone. So all of this stash is going to be that much more in play. Could potentially give him some time to utilize this minigun too, as he opts to pick it up.
Good indeed, and a very big thing to point out is Mr. Savage just got elimination, but he was quickly taken down there by Steelix, so he is out of the running in this game. Placement points have ended, elimination points have ended. He will not be getting any more for this game. Can obviously hop back into queue and get into another and another and another, but right now, Kylix looking really, really good to maximize this, and his ammo on this Brutus minigun is going to allow him to do so much. I'm intrigued that he's not actually pulling out the minigun right now and using it on the players rotating through the air. It's so effective, but his aim going right there, he doesn't need much to be effective there. You see Yahtzee going down, Sway going down, Astro SMZ going down as the grappler being used. Kylix is going to choose to play the backside of zone now as he's waited to try to get any elimination that he can, and he's going to find one snag. Who's Steelix's duo partner going down, not paying attention to his piece control there. Unfortunate, but Kylix really taking advantage of that play.
Yeah, that's super rough. Just trying to pop a couple shield potions there right on the edge, but not going to be able to get them off. As we see Evil Genius's Verox recently signed to them, getting some pressure down the low ground. 25 players remaining as Yoa goes down. Artur also going down. You can see trying to use the harpoon to kind of get whatever loot back over he can. As we flip on over, you can see Decentos is Zen Diablo desperately trying to rotate back in the zone. Verox is able to use that harpoon. He's trying to fish for whatever additional mats he can, as he is now going to join the fray and join into this tower in here, trying to find a safe layer, but instead getting a nice little flank on the mobile player there as we hop on board here with T-Lek.
And T-Lek somehow making these low match situations work, going through all these old builds. Is actually, I think, going to find his old builds here, so very lucky as Snappy is going to fall there around 21st place, so not going to get that extra little boost. as Felix still in this game as well. Felix using these low match situations very, very well. Gonna find an old build that he can just replace a couple walls and be good in. I like that he used that pickaxe to just really get that information, not fully break the wall. Going ahead of this player, gonna cut them off possibly for an elimination attempt, but not gonna be able to do so. Cool as Carrot gonna go down as well. So the Carrot just not cool enough to make it to that top 10 placement points, as Karma gonna go down, Finn gonna go down. Felix though, really getting lucky with this zone RNG.
I was just about to say, it just pulls back over builds for him. He's been able to use so few builds to control this, and he's going to be able to catch another pick. That's the second player we've seen just thinking they're safe because they're going back over old builds, but no, unfortunately, it's not going to happen. T-Like does pick up this guy's assault rifle as we have our top 10 now. Let's check it out. Who is it? You have Mobile Player out in the storm. You have Micho up on the high ground. Scratchy and T-Like doing tons of damage there. That was a 135 shot going through, forces himself to phase through, but unluckily for him, there's an opening on the backside. I don't think that was the same player he was chasing, but he'll take it. T-Like phases through, finds somebody else. The other player chasing into the storm. 90 tag goes through, does have one flopper, doesn't even need it. Says, I'll get the siphon instead. Brilliantly played by T-Like, but he needs to find his way back to the zone or to get a refresh, and he gets the refresh on Micho, who are dropped down. Top 5 coming out now. Pops his last flopper, needs to find it or needs to get to the zone. 40, oh, it's gonna get stopped right there on the edge. Brilliantly done from there by not the mobile player, as he looks to continue to go forward there, phases through, and we're gonna have our top 2.
And Putrick, mobile player, aka him right here on your screen, is doing very well. He's got 2 mythic items in his repertoire. Gonna use the grappler to try to go up, is gonna get the high ground, dodges the cone narrowly, and he does maintain the high ground. Now all he's got to do is keep the pressure down with that drum gun. You see him dropping on down, drum gun in his hand. But what I'm worried about, he does only have 1 clip of the drum gun. He has to manage that very carefully, realizing that he's going to slide down this tree to avoid as much fall damage as he can. Does take a bit, is thinking about drum gunning in. Shotgun going to come through. He hits both in the drum gun. Follow up, Kylix going to go down, and Putrick going to take a 3 elimination victory royale.
Well done from him there to land the pump shot as he went through. Kind of saved a weird situation when he threw himself kind of just down in there, but well done there, closing it out. And again, we just see those massive old builds from Europe on those late rotations. I mean, that was a heck of a game too.
Man, that's it. That's right, EU. Keep bringing up the heat. Now, guys, what we have to talk about, of course, are the standings, because that's going to be the ultimate storyline of the day. Who is making it through? Now, big reminder, we will have cumulative standings as we look through throughout the day, but the final standings will be posted on social media later, so please, FN Competitive, that's a great way to stay up to date. Now, guys, we saw big names in there. Micho, for example, Coolest Carrot, who was eliminated just outside of top 10, so we have to keep an eye on them. But right now, Noah at the top, 217 points. Now, again, this is after day 1's performance. After 2 games, Noah sits at top right now, Sundown.
Yeah, Noah playing incredibly well. Also want to give a shout out to Lecce, who had an absolutely incredible game to push him up into second place over on the leaderboards right now. And you can see Wolfie's the World Cup duo second place, the player for XL hanging out there in third, as we now flip on over to the 20th page. And again, this is what you'd expect to see. You have Lazon, Mr. Savage, Mongrel up there as well, Mitro, Putrick, who we just saw win that last game under the guise of mobile player, and then E11, Tayson, and Cypher5, so a lot of player who we've seen up there. And again, I want to give a shout out to Lazon, who was the duos console and mobile champion with his partner Slow, but he has consistently been among the top 25 and top 30 every single time we've looked at the standings. Very rarely is he getting pushed outside of the top 50, if ever. So props to him for showing up and competing with these guys.
That's really good to see him up there amongst the likes of Chapix, Wakey, CRR, Red Rush, Ferox, Falconly, Aqua, moving on up there into 72nd. I don't believe he was not in the top 80 going into today, and now coming on up, really, really good to see Aqua up there. We know him as one half of the World Cup Duo Championships. We'll see how he does. Nyrox move up there as well. He was in 81st coming in today, now in 80th. So, moving on up, climbing on up, both the Duo World Cup champs in there. We'll see how they do.
That's right, man. It's a very close competition. When you have to think like world champions may not make it into top 80, that is how fierce the competition is right here, right now. Now, of course, Fortnite fam, we are going to go to a break, but don't get too far because when we come back, we'll have more action from EU, and we'll have more casters on rotation to take us into those set of games. Get up, find yourself a snack, go grab some water, and when you come back, we'll be right here, waiting for your beautiful face to get into the next games, all right? All right. Also, don't forget to send Sundown and Clay a big follow, because these guys are incredible, and Sundown was sick yesterday, so you better send him some love, too. All right, Fortnite fam. We'll be back with more games after this break. What's going on, Fortnite fam? We are back with week 2 of the FNCS Invitational. This time, we've got Shy Wager, we got Ball TW. We're going to be bringing the heat like those first 2 games of EU did. Now, guys, what I want to do is take here a moment to talk about the standings as we saw them right before, as we get ready for the next set of games. There's a lot of big names there that are right on the edge of potentially not qualifying, while others like Aqua are pushing into that top 80. I mean, Aqua wasn't even top 100 yesterday.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing to kind of rehash and look at the overall leaderboard, because that's what matters at the end of everything. So first place right now still being held on by Noah, but yeah, you're right. There are some stories, some stragglers of people who, you know, weren't in range, were at risk. Aqua was a big one to me. There's players like Stompy as well. I mean, so many names that we still have yet to see if they're actually going to qualify.
That's right, man. We'll have to see. It's going to be kind of close, but we're ready to get into the next set of games. So, gentlemen, take us in.
All right, we tune right back into what we've been seeing all around the map, all the way from Pleasant down to the Slurpy Swamps. It's getting crazy. It's European FNCS Invitationals Day 2 of week number 2.
Shy, do that again, man. Give us another intro to that game.
All right, let's hop in. Boys, let's get it ready. EU, we already know how hot it gets. It's week number 2. This is kind of the last ride, the last final 10 games for all of these guys. We've been talking about overall leaderboards when it comes to the top 80. Now, we can say names, we can talk about the game all we want. The thing on the line, though, is how does it actually affect these players and their decisions when they're moving from box to box, right? We have people climbing up the top 80. These guys will have struggles, and they will try to play more aggressively. Hopefully, not hopefully, but sometimes ruining people's games who are near the top, who are trying to play passive. At the same time, the people up top are just trying to hold, keep their lead over. We talked about Noah before. We haven't seen him just yet, but when we do, we'll tune in with the Lord of the region up top, just trying to hold on to that lead.
And we're also going to see some adjustments out of Day 2. Possible that Dynamic is doing one of those right now. You already saw some beams coming out of Pleasant Park, and he does push in after a couple tags onto Dexy to close things out. 2 elims on what looked like a strategy that I think he might have gone to the drawing board yesterday with, because sitting in that bush and getting third-party tags that early in the game is not really something that you actually see too often, and he gets himself 2 elims out of it.
These are strats that you usually see at the starts of tournaments, the game 1s, but this is kind of close to game 12, 13, 14 for a lot of these players. People are still in the same kind of mindset that they were yesterday, slightly refreshed, but then also looking to just, you know, pull back the same strategies time and time again. This is one of the spots we saw all around the world, NA East, EU, Middle East, where third parties and big fights start to break down. Matix is going to get right into it as well and be the one on high ground. That being said, anything can happen depending on how fast this fight gets, and it seems like the player he's fighting is slightly asleep at the wheel, not covering walls all around him, but if that is the case, this fight should be over quickly.
And I think he is making him a little bit drowsy, because this is putting him in the spin cycle. Matix on the dive rig, and a lot of loot earned for Matix in that one fight. We've watched this location be the center of a lot of the quick early game fights. And I think it's because the routes clash so hard on these rotations from the players. In solos, tend to go for kind of little outskirts houses, 1 or 2, 3 or 4 chests, and then they have to try to go to other places. And in that case, goes quickly. Wolfie's in this game. We're gonna watch another fight here right outside of Craggy Cliffs, and it's gonna go all the way right on the side of this mountain. Yura trying to find a way out. He does almost get a tack shot in, but then he gets put in the spin cycle himself, finds a way out of it. And where does it go from here?
These fights are just sticky. No matter what happens, these players are just box to box when the cone's right in front of your face. It just feels claustrophobic. Right now, Yura is just trying to get past this, trying to just find a little bit of room to breathe, and doesn't actually need it. Takes out a Vesta. He gets wrapped up, and now there's still more to do at Craggy. The game's still not pushed on the full way into the mid-game, and already we see big bases being built all around the map.
And Maestro, we saw fight so many times throughout the Invitational so far, throughout week 1 and week 2. He's in another one right on the river, right on the stream, and he does get the jump, but misses the shot onto Pepe. He's going to back up. There's a minigun here to pressure, but they're going to trade. That gold AR is actually be able to put a little bit more DPS out at that range, I think, for Pepe, plus the potential just of high burst damage if it connects with a couple of headshots. But it slows down. He does get right back on top. I'm wondering if they're actually going to fight or if they're going to try to disengage with that stream.
It's all decisions, but I haven't seen a fight yet unless a grappler is involved get fully disengaged, and I don't think anyone actually has the room to do so, although loadouts are basically filled out all the way to the brim, and people have the mats to fight. When they actually get invested and they end up spending 200, 300 materials, you get into moments like this where it's just, you know, everything on the walls, you have to be invested. Pepe goes down, and it's Maestro who finds that elimination. Now you can see what I was talking about. His materials as well after that fight ends aren't too many in his inventory. Yes, he has that big loadout. Not too many upgrades from, you know, that fight at all. He still gets to move on, though, with the points, and that's what really matters here. I was talking about the grappler. We're going to move right back into the Shark. Freemock's actually going to be on the offensive, moving in towards from the island/lighthouse. Lukey, now a new kind of thing that's going on. Taken out first. Usually he's the man that gets that elimination early on at this POI. The Freemock will move in sneakily, looking for big tags and beams. Just a 30 tag on the shield. But regardless, we're talking about people committing the fights. Not even a few mats invested. They're going straight for these early game points. These early game elims, I don't expect this fight to last too long, even though, yes, we are at the Shark.
And Freemock is somebody who is very at risk. He was nowhere in that top 80 after day one. And so today he's got to really overtake this. It is going to be a really nice start onto the player in front of him. He gets Mini, and also with that he gets Sky's loadouts. The card is still there, I believe, unless that's just the grappler. So possibly the vault open already. And I don't see anybody else on the minimap. That might mean there's room to get there. I think I see the launch pad in Freemock's inventory, which might indicate that that vault already opened and looted, but there might be more. Regardless, this is what you needed from Freemock. Already at 29 points so far, probably in his third or fourth game. If he wants to be there in the grand finals, he needs to have at least 100 or 130 points to make it through, based on probably the projection of around 180 points required overall.
It's all about getting through these thresholds, but when you're in a box fight, you can't actually think of that totally. And hey, forget box fights. If you have an opportunity to get that fall damage elim done, Maestro, 1, 2, 3, easy peasy, has it there for him. 14 total points.
Some of these fights looking like Season 3, Season 4, the amount of height that they're going for. I mean, we saw Magin fighting at basically this same position right here, go way, way, way up. And there was a couple of resets on the full build fight that ended up costing lives. But this is Chapter 2. There is water in play.
There's also patterns in play, too. Caxi, once again, trapped in a fight where he doesn't have the full advantage in Storm. Now just, I think, 2 seconds left to land one more shot. It's not going to be possible. It's the last possible second, actually, on the Bafo. He gets to live. I was about to just go into full roast mode because we saw just 2 games ago Caxi fall in a box fight, and one that I think he should have won this time. One that he should have lost, he ends up winning out in. That being said, we tuned into this portion of the map before. We knew where the zone was going. It's slightly close. Can he just get back in? Have enough HP to live out? I mean, the yacht's there. We'll tune into Maestro once again, though. I feel like he's the star of the show right now with this W key. We talked about the Grotto minigun. Brutus's minigun not being the best thing for solos, but he's finding ways to make it work and just complementing it with that golden AR.
That's exactly what he's doing. And W King at this length right now, 3 eliminations. He got 12 points so far in this game, 6 total in another one. So first 2 games maybe not going in the direction that he wanted. Maybe he's starting to get a little bit desperate. We have seen him fight a lot in multiple games, but this is the last day, the last opportunity to push into that top 80 to get into the grand finals. Other players, CRR, SR4, CRR was on pace yesterday. Pretty much right next to his cohort in Mitro, and it looks like he has quite a lot of space here at the agency. And the drum gun, but the vault not open yet.
And it's a risk every time you open it, especially when you leave a 1v1 disengaged at this drop spot, because people end up hiding the loot in there, the amount of shields, the ammo, the free launch pad. I mean, I'd wait an entire game, maybe 2, to get access, especially if I don't have the card. It's just too tempting. And right now, the person who is waiting inside is going to be waiting for CRR to move in, hopefully get it from what angle is the question. Slightly close to the vault. Does he own any of these walls? No. So someone's already been here before him. The sky's now gone as well, so henchmen and all these radars will see him coming and alert people when he's next to the vault. I think he just opened it up, so now we'll see some developments. But that's just the name of the game in the agency. Every single Mythic POI. All throughout the map, though, Maestro will be our avatar of sorts to show us exactly which fights are going to be ended quickly.
And he did end the day one on 46 points, so really does need a solid, big performance, basically at the top of the second day leaderboard. And so far, so good with the W key playstyle. It looks like he might be able to clean up. Yes, there's a heavy snipe in the minigun right on top of the cone. Yes, instantly. Low HP for the other player, and that's Verox. Another solid player on the cusp of not eliminating, and he eats him right up.
He's just cooking. He's getting things to that right temperature to just munch on every single person in this competition right now. This is like 4 back-to-back fights that we've seen this man just roll through, and I would say record time. And I was going to say maybe move on to that 5th, but now some strategic positioning in play, moving around, catching up to the rest of the game where you don't have a chance to W key as hard.
Yeah.
So move over to Sweaty Sands where things will definitely get harder and a lot more sweaty.
The last 3 elims for him were kind of easy pickings. I mean, the first fight was hard. The first fight was difficult, but since then it's really been just people that he can third party, people that he knows are in a rough spot, that he can use Brutus's minigun to great advantage to get in and clean up. So I think everything's so solid from Maestro. Clearly looking to be on the aggressive and taking those opportunities when he can, whereas other players might opt not to. So far, so good. It's working out for him.
And overall, right now, between him with Skype, he's at about 133rd place overall. Has 26 points moving into this day, 9 so far. Now, remember, on a delay, we can always be tuning in to these stories as they develop. We could see how he got all the way up to this spot. That might just be 133rd overall for today. So, on the whole competition, we'll get an update to exactly where he is. But we'll see a game coming out of him. Julian Calm, though, walking around. Bryzy as well. Boxed up. Launch pads on all these individuals. And these guys will be kind of the key components towards end and mid game when it comes to getting rotation down for the rest of the server. We saw the trouble Toos got into end game when he just found one launch pad, couldn't actually access it, then afterwards wanted to jump to another. Over here, though, we'll see Bryzy moving in, deciding where to base up. If he does get in trouble, he can use that mobility. If not, though, he can just hide out at the edges of the zone and shoot heavy sniper bullets. We've seen this weapon connect at big ranges and just give people that free elimination without being box to box based off of the enemy's mispositioning.
I think that's CRR. Yes, it is CRR. You can just tell by the skin. I was going to ask for a drip check earlier because he's full mythical creature right now on the side. And Bryzy is not going to be able to get the loot. But CRR out of this game right here. He's going to have to go on to the next one. That does not necessarily mean he's down and out for the count, because I think he was certainly in contention for the top 80. The better controller players, so we would expect him to be up there. But for now, he's out of this one, and unfortunately, it feels like every time we watch him on the Fortnite broadcast, he gets eliminated in quick fashion. Speaking of Sweaty Sands, speaking of position, Mongrel has basically not moved this entire time. He's up at the top of the hotel in Sweaty Sands.
And although that's something that's really good, a lot of the times for this format specifically, you're missing out on a lot of things, and that's eliminations all around the map. And when it comes to Mongrel, we know how fast and easy it is for him to win these box fights. He's given up one of the biggest strengths of his gameplay, I think, to be in this position. But that means we can basically understand his game plan and what he wants to do this game. It's just about getting information, surveying, looking at, who are the weak builders who are rotating, getting maybe a little bit too greedy. Can I get comfortable with all my tags? I'm going to get active once those moving zones start, and I'm going to be in the prime position first.
I think that shift in his playstyle is actually a key reason for why he's doing so well in this week's Invitational, because last weekend was kind of middling, around 100th place for Mongrel. Not where you would want him to be, but I think where we've kind of expected him to be in these solo tournaments over the past couple of months. Now, all of a sudden it's a shift. 10th place yesterday, 6th place in a Cash Cup earlier in the week, and then 4th place in the last Cash Cup. Something has clicked for Mongrel. And I think today, he still has the potential to overtake the people at the top, Noah and Lecce.
There are some other people, though, that got thrown into the mix. I believe Versa kind of made him stumble yesterday earlier on when the competition just started. So even though there is big confidence, big momentum swings for these players, they have to stay vigilant and make sure they're making the right decisions and not making mistakes. We've seen how much one game, one individual moment in one game can matter. Even just the placement point, the tiebreakers all the way at the top down to 80th place. They're just so close. You want to make sure you make the best out of every single moment.
Castery in the game, Darker. Not sure where their position. Castery, I think, played very well. Oh, here's a big one. A big name, Wolfies. Was very good yesterday. I believe 5th place for him. And honestly, I was looking at his standings, looking at his match history. Another shift for him too, because he had the 2nd highest average placement out of the top 5. And looking at his match history, only one of those did he fail to convert on score, and he went out in 100th. I think definitely something went wrong for him in that game, because that's uncharacteristic. But he didn't fall off spawn. He didn't fall in mid-game fights. It was endgame every single time. And for Wolfies, that's a far cry from his aggressive playstyle, the W key get in your box mentality for him since the World Cup days after getting 2nd there. Nice pick off from Jachu on a Xeno. It's going to net him a little bit. But most importantly, I think the Elim there, because Jachu was already looking very good on materials.
Same time, though, Xeno being taken out this early in this game specifically, we've seen how sticky he can be towards these end games, how invasive he can be in people's boxes, ending up surviving and holding down layers. It's going to open up a lot of flexibility and options for other people in the server to be able to move around freely, especially in that 8th and 9th zone. Jachu will chill, and possibly one of the best boxes available at Sweaty Sands. Meanwhile, a 4-man condominium stack. We'll pick and choose to see who leaves first once this zone does close in.
Yura collects the rents onto Lysen right there across the way. And even with the harpoon, he gets maybe a little extra. Maybe a bit of a bully there in the condominium. Yura, 72 builds. And he pays a little bit there for something that I don't think he really needed to go for at all. I think he might have thought that there was extra stuff down below his builds. Maybe harpoon dropped it outside. But no. And now everybody waits for this 5th zone. Guys, if you're just joining us, if you're wondering why we continuously talk about the top 80, this is day 2 of week 2's Invitational. Next weekend is the grand finals, where we will be down to 100 players. And from here, the top 80 people in this weekend's competition will qualify for that grand finals. So that's the importance there. But still, prizing on the line. So for the people like Wolfies, who were 5th place yesterday, they still have the potential to get $50,000 for placing first. Now, that's definitely on the minds of players like that, but everybody else also thinking about that top 80.
That's basically the two sides of the coin today. It's just people trying to grab towards the top. Darker right now trying to just reach in the boxes, and he does hold on to a big elimination and the loot as well from it. Gonna have the option, no, it gets taken away. Now he's at the risky territory, but slightly safe. Oh no, now he's in a very sticky situation. Has to get out of it, trying to, and the end game's about to start too.
That it is. We've got 5th zone. A lot of people starting to make their rotation, but just want to talk about that play really quickly, because Darker obviously got the Elim onto Kura. You talked about the horde of loot there, but then instantly gets shot out by a harpoon player down a layer. And that baited Darker to go down one, but that was not his build, so instantly there was edits, instantly there was spray, and he gets punished for a play that was certainly a little too risky.
Yeah, right now you talk about risk, you talk about how the game's developing, it's just so congested into just the Sweaty Sands hotel. Everyone's finally here, and it's two main sides that everyone's on. Right now, Shando is finding his main way to get in the boxes, trying to find the tags, but doesn't all the way get there in the most comfortable fashion. Taken down on all shields, on all fronts as well. Has about 600 mats left. How many will he use on this defensive run here? Finally looks like he's stabilized, gets the shield up. But just look over at this hotel side. People have to be checking out, but at the same time being careful box to box as to what's going to be going on. On the other side of things, there's a very small community. The 4 base now expanded to about an 8 once people launch padded in, and they'll have the favor on where to move in zone. The entire lobby is basically going to be at the beck and call of these 8 individuals.
And every one of these impacts, every one of these elims starts to get so consequential. I mean, Stompy just went down there to Shando. Stompy, one of the most influential players in solos back in the World Cup qualifier days, in tournaments just like this. Maestro continues, heavy snipe in the box, and that's now 5 for him. With a creative little play, landing directly into it, using the momentum to get right in the box, and also the surprise element of players. The awareness so difficult to track players flying by your lair out of the launch pad. Well played from Maestro.
And he was playing the long game this entire time with the heavy sniper, looking for box-to-box action. Now he's flipped the switch. Launchpad in play, taking that heavy sniper down for floppers. He's looking to play in the storm, looking to get big action into this game. We see all these layers developing time and time again. He's still sticking back, though, waiting to push people forward first, then get in from the pressure he creates. Right now, looks like he has a free line of sight to where the zone's coming in from. Picks up Ryza, who gets taken out, and then after that moves back into his box, catches up to his position. He does have the advantage on the next zone, has a lot of materials. This could be a huge 10+ elimination game for Maestro as long as he stays safe. There's another one instantly picked up. A response on the Shando, who we saw earlier, the minigun, to just compliment right after that. He's still going in. 7 total eliminations, looking for the 8th.
I wonder if he's getting a little too far ahead of himself. He is going to duck down into Storm and also duck down to a massive ultimate low ground position. Launch padding ahead too. Should find himself somewhere, but he's right next to Castery now. The other strong players trying to push their way up. He was over at 18th yesterday. Maestro, though, not in the qualification range. He tries to follow up, but no. It gets actually stolen. Mongrel was in this for a second as Janice takes him down. Maestro's at 7 right now, and he's still looking for more. Decipto's somewhere in this game as well. One of the strong players from week 1, possibly a potential win for him, but this minigun is doing so much damage. That's another one there.
Let's talk about Maestro, someone in control. He's the individual starting off the entire chaos in this endgame. When things are silent, everyone hears his minigun first, then they react, and more shots are put down, but you don't need that big pressure when you have that close range tack as well. He gets another one. That's Deciptos, the person Balo was talking about. Another big contender taken out of this insanely stacked endgame. 8 people still left as we wait for that 8th zone to wrap up. Maestro still holding the line at the edge. This is such a good ebb and flow of tactics here. He's going forward, looking for pressure, then playing back, waiting for people to respond. And he's going to do it once again, just holding back with that minigun, raining down terror on everyone who's on that backside. Picks up one tactical shotgun switch again for the 3rd time for the next. 10 eliminations now for Maester. He is insane at the moment.
And he even finds the time to pop the shield potion right back up to close to 200. Yachu still in this Dako as well. Wondering who the 3rd player, or the 4th player would be. Maestro, though, looking, and he's actually hunting for this victory royale. He's got 64 materials based on all the impacts, but he holds one out and then gets stuck. 2 players right next to him. It's Freemock, the last remaining player, and I don't even think that anybody realizes they have ultimate height right now. I think they're all in a jumble of old builds.
Yeah, this is going to be a very confusing thing to kind of break down, a labyrinth of sorts vertically in terms of the builds that are available all the way still near Sweaty Sands. Freemock, though, in the final 1v1 will be on height and have the grappler, so he knows that there's no one that can really contest him with a surprise item. He has full control of the situation, looking to end it now, though. Just has that mythic AR to have a say on things down below. A minigun, though, to answer it. That was Maestro's before. He lands a big 74 headshot tag at his opponent down below. It's Jachu, who we saw before take out so many different people in that mid game. Now looking to close the end. Builds are going to be the thing that are important here. Just looking for that final tack shot, and Freemock finds it. 5 total eliminations. Just a few builds left, but it doesn't matter. He has that win, and he's looking very strong here on day 2.
And Jatsu gave him the window, jumped up, tried to surprise him with a shot of his own, but no, Freemark is too quick and has the high ground advantage to make it work. And Zeke, I think that game was a story of people basically coming back from the ashes, rising from the depths of the leaderboard, because Maestro was there at the bottom, and so was Freemark. Two players who we might expect to be in the top 80 at the end of this do put their mark so far on day 2.
And I think that's such a great point. That's actually what I wanted to talk to you guys was about. Is yesterday we saw Maestro in 231st place with only 46 points, and today he's kicking it up a notch. And what I loved so much about that game, and we saw not only Maestro do it but a few other players as well, is that now in day 2 they understand this is it. Everything has to be put on the line right here, right now. And for Maestro, he's running around looking for opportunities, waiting for anyone to make the smallest mistake, and absolutely taking advantage of them and sending them back to lobby. It's ridiculous.
I mean, the thing is that all these people who he's fighting against are good players, especially in the defensive category, right? They know how to stop box fights. When you have Brutus's minigun, which you don't really see, you know, it's kind of an unorthodox thing. Usually it's the drum gun or an SMG in a box. The fact that it stays just online for so long in an engagement and never stops and never really have to reload it, I think that's the reason, just this game specifically, he was allowed to do what he did.
Yeah, and I mean, not to take away from all the different players there, but there was so many gaps and a lot of different layers throughout that game for Maestro. Not only in the early game, Zeke, you're talking about him looking for opportunities, but it basically was that throughout even the end game. I mean, there was spots where it looked like, yeah, you could spray a bunch of miniguns through, or minigun bullets through, use all the light ammunition up, but there was holes in defenses and also people not really having the awareness that Maestro was able to take advantage of.
And I mean, players left and right being eliminated. We saw people like Mongrel, who yesterday was in 10th place, being taken out, right? This competition right now is so close. At any moment, anyone can just completely come out from outside of 80th into the top 80.
I think one thing that we all missed in that game was Wolfies made it into top like 6 or 7 in that one. And that, again, is a placement game for Wolfies. Yes, it wasn't a number of elims. He might have slowed down on that front in terms of these games in week 2, but man, is he looking good. And don't forget, he was in 5th place yesterday. So if there's anybody out of that game, yes, those players, Freemark and Maestro, might have pushed themselves in the qualification range. Wolfies might start to creep up on Noah, might start to creep up on Lecce, his former duo partner.
And that's absolutely something we have to remember, right? It's something that I kind of said earlier, was just because we don't see that Victory Royale number, like X Victory Royales on the standings, does not mean that they're not placing top 5, right? Like, even placing something like 2nd is basically like getting a Victory Royale. It's basically like an elimination's worth of points difference. So even if they're not getting Victory Royales, placing in that top 5 will still propel them and give them momentum. Because for a lot of these guys, that's what they need right now. And some of them haven't quite got that yet.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to winning games, it's big momentum for the next one, but it also sometimes puts like big expectations for you to have that as the leading factor to you doing well, right? If people are comfortable with just playing a kind of medium play style, going for good, constant, consistent games overall, I feel like that's a better mindset to kind of hold with, especially over 20 games. Like, although you have more opportunities to get wins, it's a lot more different game to game in terms of, you know, what is the atmosphere looking like? What zone are we in? Who's in my game? You can't really plan as much for that win. That's a little bit easier in that custom, the same 100 player format. So this is kind of a challenge for a lot of experienced players and like new players alike.
And I think something too to touch on real quickly is that we might focus a lot on eliminations because it's exciting, but the placement is really what puts people and that combination up at the top.
Well, guys, it's time to see more eliminations and who takes the next game here in EU. Take it away, gentlemen.
Here we go, game 2. And we're starting off with what looks to be 8 or 9 players here in Misty Meadows. This is going to be a quick one and an explosive one, not one that we're used to seeing. Yes, a lot of players drop here, but not this amount. This might be every single player who's playing in the Invitational this weekend landing in one single game, and that's the beauty of 300 players playing in a matchmaking style, is you never know what's going to happen if there's going to be 9 players at your drop spot or uncontested.
Hey, drop spots become hot and then super heat up in moments like these, absolutely. If you look at the way placement's handed out, you want to get down to that 75 as fast as possible sometimes if you are on that aggressive run. because sometimes winning is just not enough. You need those big elims. A nice turnaround from Balasconi, who gets a big pickup there. Zeno now taken out once again. Second time on a row on the broadcast. And still, though, there's just so much more to get at Misty Meadows. Both sides, this POI is going to split off in half. This side usually is a little bit more calm and takes a little bit of time to get rolling. That right side is where more 50-50s happen, but right now, from house to house, people are just diving through the front door, looking for that fast elimination, looking for the quick third party. This time, Balasconi's there, looking for the next one to pick up, trying to pre-fire a few pump shots, getting that third party I was talking about earlier, though. He's got to move in just to make sure he doesn't get shot up anymore. Trying to control a few walls, finding out exactly where this player is hiding. It'll be the attic, and the cleaning man's there, wipes out the dust, gets that elimination right into his overall count of 4 before this game even gets started.
Through the chimney, he sweeps that up. Oh my goodness, Balasconi is playing this very well in the early game so far, and I think the way that he's playing is basically how you have to play this right here, because you said it. There is a lot of loot here at Misty Meadows, but I think it's mostly all taken at this point with how many people have got it and gotten out of here. So these fights, whenever they kind of break out between different parties, one person fighting on one side, one person fighting on the other, they spend the shield, spend the resources that makes other things get drawn out. So Balasconi taking good advantage of that and also not trading his HP too much.
And because of the speed of how much looting happens, you basically have like 8 moving chests walking around with loadouts. Every single individual here has looted a few houses. Balasconi as well is the only individual to do it in such style. A double ramp flip to pick that one up.
5 elims is what he's on so far out of this early game. It's not even halfway through the first zone, even starting to move. And he's up there. And he's still pushing for more. He's scouting these opportunities. And I think he's going to get more. Tohaj and Sino out in the distance fighting as well. Up visibly where Balasconi can see them. And those guys are not going to have any loot at all. And now in comparison to what Balasconi has, 6 minis, Harpoon fully charged, and a loadout to boot. That will put anybody out here to shame because there's just a cabin's worth of loot out here. Tohaj cleans it up, but I think at cost because Balasconi's right there on top to end things quickly for Tohaj.
The pump might not connect. The Cheeky just one tack from the AR in this box fight. You're talking about the loot he has. I'm looking at the ammo count in total right now. He can just stay online longer compared to his opponents, and because of that, be even more confident. Straight in the box. Nice home replay. This player just trying to survive right now, but it's not going to be possible. Balasconi with the 6th pickup, I think at record speed that we've seen so far, and it's just because of how volatile the system is and the fact that there was about 10 people landing Misty Meadows.
And he was ready for it. This is preparation. This is playing your cash cups every time to the fullest to have these W key games where you just play that many people in the cash cups or in your game to start things off. Mongrel in a big build fight. This is way above the hotel. And going so high, I'm getting a little nervous for him, but he's up there and he's hanging. Metal being expended. He's got no more builds and he's up at the top, but he does take out Primsy Revenge from yesterday. And oh my goodness, this build fight is so high. Thankfully, mostly Metal. Thankfully, it's not going to be able to get chopped too quickly. He's going to take the siphon on the way down. There's the materials. There was a player lurking down in the garage, and I don't think he's actually spotting or looking at this build fight, because if he was, I think he would have been at the bottom of this, chopping it all down.
We saw last game, Matix was still here playing around Sweaty Sands. We saw yesterday, Versa played against Mongrel at the very first game. Versa actually took out Matix as we were watching that Misty Meadows fight break down, and now I think he might be the person who's hiding all the way down below.
So it might not have been full direct revenge, but maybe indirect, because Versa duos with Primsy and duoed with him throughout all the FNCS. So Mongrel takes out at least one half of that, so possible revenge in an indirect way. He's got to be careful, though. I don't think he realizes that this player's right next to him. Right so near, and there it is, the beams. Does lose his shield, but he has minis to get right back up to that, and he does back up into the garage. Finds a spot where he can build all 4 walls, no gaps left at all. But he is there. He goes right back up, though. Opens up the gap, and now he just listens. Where did he go? Is there potential here for me to go anywhere else? Yes, back down to the garage, and I get a big pot to put myself up to 200 HP. Just got to find the time now.
Ensar right now who has the HP advantage, but Mongrel will quickly try to just put the winning side to himself. It's not going to be possible. Big Tag's traded. He goes down, and a little bit of a celebration for Ensar here. It's a big chance for a lot of other people to catch up now in that overall cumulative leaderboard. Ensar might be one of them, but Mongrel will not have to wait in queue once again to get his game going.
Somebody whose game has gotten going and is still rolling, Balasconi. Don't forget about him because he's now 6 eliminations. He's upgraded his pump shotgun from blue. He's started his fishing route a little bit, gotten 1 flopper, but I think everything else basically going to be gone by now. Yes, there might have been a lot of players in Misty Meadows, but also means a lot of players already gotten their way out. There is 1 hole there, though that might not actually be there in reality. But more third parties, as Lazy Lake probably went through a similar thing in terms of how many people were landing here, and he is going to come up on a nice fight, a good angle, too, to look at it.
I would say right now that his fishing route continues because so far he's been treating every single person like a slurp fisher or a flopper as just an instant quick grab, one and done, chase down. He's going to try to set it up once again. Needs a big tag here. Will it be from that big pump shotgun? It's Bad Sniper and Huddy that takes big trades, but Balasconi's didn't pick up the first. The next one might go to him as well, and that could be huge. It's easy, and it's cleaned up. The timing, impeccable.
That was beautiful from Balasconi, too. Didn't just dive that box. Yes, he got the first one on a Bad Sniper right head on, straight up, right over top of that. But instantly as that happened, he didn't spend time looting. He went over top, behind, find the path that the other player, Huddy, needed to actually be aware of and be quick enough to realize that. And he's looking for more now. Balasconi gets a heavy snipe off of that, an extra flopper, some materials, an AR upgrade to the burst. And there's another player who's directly in his sights. And don't forget, this is still first zone. Don't forget that that is just now starting to close. We finally reveal second zone. He's got 8 eliminations already. This is ridiculous.
He's basically already made that big endgame moment happen right now, just looking to get a little bit more, but possibly, yep, biting off a little bit more than he can chew. That being said, the timing of that game, the amount of points he got, I think that's a good run.
That was probably the most efficient game that you could possibly ever have. Remember, eliminations are worth 4 points, and he probably just played 6 minutes worth of a game, and that's it. And got how many? So 8 eliminations. That's, I'm just gonna act like he had 10 to make the math easy. 40 eliminations, 32 points total, and he's already back to the lobby. He's already queuing for the next game. He's already ready to go. I mean, sure, there's gonna be wasted time in the queue times for him, possibly 5 to 10 minutes. I think is what it is for the most part for the 300 players that we're looking at. But I've got to say that's very efficient. You spend normally 25 minutes for a full game to get in a really, really good one, 70, 60 points. If it's just placement, it's only 33 out of a win. You got to think about that. Put that in perspective. He basically just got a victory royale.
Yeah, definitely. Even more so than that, too, because he got a little bit of placement. I think almost that 50th place threshold as well. That being said, though, we'll tune in with him afterwards. Now, the main man to focus on, I guess, should be Mr. Savage, because this could be a game now that Balasconi's out and he's taking out big names who give Savage trouble in the past in endgame. He's going to have a little bit of an easier run here towards the end. 50 people in total as well.
Things are going to slow down from here because there's a couple players, Balasconi included, who probably just took out a lot of the different lobby, but they're probably now down and out or looking for position. So it's certainly going to get quieter, certainly going to get slower as players start to make their rotation.
It's funny because we see people walk by on so many different POIs just seeing each other. Sometimes in a game before, shooting off each other, picking each other up fast. And in the next game, things can be so different. You can have one player just ruin the entire lobby, even mid-game glory. That's Julian Calm. We saw this man in the final 1v1 situation, now taken out. If you're talking about a game of upsets where weird things happen, I'm not sure if we're, in the down under right now, if this is like the upside down, my bad, if we're full Stranger Things mode at the moment, but this is a different game that I don't think we've seen the likes of before at this speed.
Yeah. And people talk about the differences in day 2. I think it started a little bit more stacked, but you talk about flipping things. The script might be getting flipped right here because players are going to be desperate, man. I'm just saying, 300 players, 80 people going to move on to the next stage. Otherwise, you're going right down to the reboot round. And yes, it might be another chance, but it's just harder because in the reboot round, if you're not familiar with that, there's going to be 520 players. It's everybody who made it to week 1 of the Invitational, who did not go through to any of the stages, did not make it to the grand finals, gets the opportunity to rise up. So out of 520 players, 20 will go and get their chance at the grand finals. Think of it kind of as a double elimination bracket in a sense. 2 chances at life.
At the same time, though, that reboot round is just one instance, one day, one session. It's no longer a 2 format, so whatever happens that day happens. Over here, though, for this game, this is the moment for either Shando or Ensar to pass on. 46 total points, looking to get up to 50 here off this elimination. Ensar tries to break through, gets a few tags, but gets traded. That's the counter to that SMG new box dive mechanic that we're seeing. You need to land a big shotgun shot. Yes, it's very hard, a lot harder than what we've seen before, but it's the only thing that can silence people, make them less confident. You have to just work at the mentality of these crazy players trying to get into the box.
When you talk about it being a little harder, the scale of difficulty of hitting that compared to what it takes for you to SMG dive in the box is drastically different. But it is what must be done. Sometimes the scales are flipped in a direction that you have to overcome. Don't forget, Ensar was the player who took out Mongrel earlier on in that game. And he eats the little bit of, I don't know, overconfidence he got coming out of Sweaty Sands, taking out one of the better players in the world. And goes right down to Shando, who we saw in the last game take out Stompy, but with the 17 points that he got so far today in the bottom of his screen, that only puts him around the 50-point mark overall, which is nowhere near where you need to be at the end to be in top 80.
And if you listen closely enough, really closely, you can hear Mongrel doing the kitty cat dance all the way in this other game. A little bit of revenge. Talking about what happened last game to this one as well, Direvig, who we saw just get absolutely demolished in a box fight earlier on. I think it was another SMG box dive, one and done. Will be central position in a huge metal base. And we saw Mongrel have this opportunity last game, kind of central, looking at where to get next, although this is not ultimate height. This is a good place to see exactly what can happen, but a blunder. Trying to go for a big heavy sniper play, and now you'll see that flip of confidence again. It's not Ensar, but now Direvig now, who has to basically look at how he's going to approach this fight. Piece control available from his opponent, but it's kind of even off on this fight as to who's coming out on top so far. It is Direvig's base, or Direvig's base. He's looking to see if he can land more shots.
There was such a big opportunity there for Direvig. I'm just going to call him Direvig because I can't say that. There was such a big opportunity there because Yoa actually could not jump up over the floor that was edited, that was Direvig's. And that was all his walls, so he could have moved out to the side and really punished him. But there's a moment in time where there's a big chance for Direvig, but now everything revealed, all his plays, his cards are known. He's not hiding it.
It's just so risky at this point, at this level of a base that's, you know, so fortified. You have a drum gun, heavy sniper, launch pad. Is it worth to go for these 4 points? Especially if you just did this last trade and you lost it, essentially. You had to use so much of your heals to get here. This is now a rundown again of what happened before. Hopefully he can actually dive into this box. He does, but now he's in his enemy's space. Doesn't matter when you have the drum gun. I think that's just complete security. You're never really in trouble box to box. He lands the shots. Now he is the king of the zone.
I mean, if you have the drum gun, Shio, and you have the hypothetical tracking to go with it,
okay,
of course it is worth it, man. Of course it is. Like, that is a imbalance. I mean, that's a fight that is on both sides, not necessarily the same scale of things like we just talked about with Shando and Ensar. Like, that's directly what it is. So use that to your advantage if you have it. I mean, that's the strength of it, the mythic item. So, yes, maybe. It's like, hey, you have the position, you have center zone, you have the launch pad, you have all this stuff that will last you to endgame, but if you're not doing anything with it, That's the difference. And speaking of, remember the last game from Dryvig? It was actually against Caxi in that zone fight, all the way up in the north side of the map. So didn't have what he needed to actually go through in that one. It was an uncomfortable situation overall. But this time, he has the ingredients. He just needs to spend a little bit more time in the kitchen.
Sometimes, though, it gets a little bit too hot. Shando electing to move out, go towards zone. I see Fast Roki on the screen. We saw his big brain play happen off before. Lies in the live here as well, and he hasn't actually moved for a very long time. This will be one of my favorite end games, the Frenzy Farm, natural low ground, kind of classic Fortnite style where a mountain's not in the way. It's all about how you're building. Mid ground is what's really important. But at the same time, where the zone pulls on the 5th circle, the half and half we call it a lot of the times, if it doesn't go your way, it gets that much harder to rotate and start that natural game style. Right now, Scrib looking to beam in first, try to go for a little bit more pressure. And get a free elimination pickup. Doesn't really find anything just yet. No mobility in his kit. He actually does pick up shift. 25 seconds are left to decide the fate of a lot of people who are evenly spread out at Frenzy Farm.
And yesterday, Scrib did get a win, but at the top of the leaderboard, he did not pin the score that he wanted to because 88th place for him. And only 22 points so far. He is pushing himself over the 100 mark with what he has done today. And he does get the 5th zone, so a lot of opportunity, just like we talked about with Dryvig. He can have a nice game in this one if things go well, and he does have the floppers for the opportunity. But I think a lot rides on how players position around him. He did not build up. He didn't waste that time. He finds another one. Yes! Onto Skylar, who we watched earlier. And I think he's going to try to dive these materials. It might be worth, depending on how much he spends and how much Skylar actually has. I'm trying to look at the inventory before we move off. No. We get the wide. We switch over to see what else is going on in the game. Toos is here, who had that massive 10-plus Elim win in the first game. Moki as well. And here's her score, 19 points so far today. Yesterday, it was okay. Today, you know she's looking for something bigger. She's looking to get on the scales of wins and not just the mediocre performances. Not necessarily mediocre, because it was something like 17th, but she's a trooper. And yes, another one out of the sky. An Elim and possibly Harpoon? No, it's a little bit too far out of range.
Still, this is kind of where it all starts. A very good position for a base. You're talking about getting more points. You want to be up in a base watching launch patterns fly and picking them off as they do so. Right now, though, Moki pushing her lead of sorts, actually, in a very good position now. A nice decision to expand the base, move exactly where you were before on the edge of zone to a more central position, to have a say at other people, possibly the whole lobby moving overall. If you look at Artur, that's where she would have been. Just one slight elevation change and a push forward in layers. She looks so much better now. Teak and Toos looking like ants compared to where Moki is in position. And she has a launch pad as well to boot after she's done with what she needs to do here. The risk, though, for getting here, it was only held up by one floor, one stair. It gets shot down still, though. She has that backup in mobility. The Harpoon is there in case she needs those mats back. The game is very much in her hands.
And it was a quick switch off of that wood directly into the metal to make this fortified, make this good for her. So solid switch. She does have the launch pad. Yesterday her performance was 42nd, 118 points. So she's up there with 140-ish so far today. One thing to note is that her day 2 performance was what propelled her to be at this stage, because she wasn't in the top 300 after day 1 of week 1. So maybe if history is as it is, she will have a stronger performance on day 2. Everything is possible now for Moki. The potential is hers.
And now it's all about what's happening in the game. Moki looking to move forward, just one elimination so far. The mat's running out too, because we saw how much she had to basically invest in that position before. She needs to find some type of elimination close by here, in Harpoon range, to try to get a say in the rest of the competition. Big shots over towards the Storm, 264 tags, but not going to have a say as to what happens next. She's in position. She knows where people are weak. Lazen is right beside her on her wall. Teak now and Artur above. Scrib controlling the whole lobby as well. The 7th zone locks in and she moves forward. Back to back though, it will be Lazen that plays the trap and pops her, unfortunately. Health pool down to 0. He's on the back end now, has to use a few floppers to get straight back to action. Around all his bills, nowhere in there. It'll be Kiko all the way up top, controlling the whole lobby, but Scrib is there right beside him as well. Now we look towards the bottom side. Savage is here. Mexi on the same layer as him. He's just getting his entire loadout structured, and it's the drum gun flopper RPG pump combination. I'm getting a few DreamHack vibes with this position he's in right now. Could it be a repeat of an insane game that takes out big names all the way at the bottom of this crop field? He's looking to harvest, has the trap set up with these floor edits, doesn't actually find them for now. Moves forward first. He's looking for the first shot to pounce on eliminations.
Yes! He gets it. The RPG with the drum gun. Usually it's the shotgun that follows up, but with that in his hands, he's going to make it really, really work. And with 3 eliminations so far for Mr. Savage, even looking back now as his own bounces in this direction, almost finds a player in his box. Yes, he does. The wall too, but he gets away. A mouse escapes right through the little hole that he's made. Mr. Savage now, though, 9 players remaining total in this. He reloads the RPG, makes sure everything is ready for him to pounce on the next. We'll see if that actually shows itself, and yes, Trulex down and out.
A general on a battlefield, Mr. Savage is doing things in such cool fashion, keeping things so methodical, time after time, moving from box to box, but knowing all his options, and he has so many. He can lead with the drum gun, hit with those pump shots, and has the RPG as well in case things get hairy. He wants to get explosive. Still though, choosing to stay on low, and that's because that's where he can just collect the bones of every single person dropping down in quick desperation. It's Savage who you're going to be answering to with that drum gun RPG combination, still spraying through. Builds will not save you. Whoa, a harpoon dodge, making me dodge in real life. That was so close to his head. 5 eliminations now. Box to box, lands the next shot. A pickaxe is what he'll have to use because he's running out of steam, but still delivering damage. A grappler now in his toolkit, and oh my god, a 160 pump. Magwell goes down. A final 1v1 situation here for Mr. Savage. Has the launch pad, every option on the board. He's going to choose the coolest, the cleanest one. Looking for possible floppers. No! Not possible. It's Airwalks who gets him down from the sky, but you can't discredit what that man just did. The absolute clinic he put on low ground. Mr. Savage never left.
And it's Airwalks who does overtake in the final moments, but if you actually add up the scores, it was Mr. Savage who came out on top of that game with the amount of points that he just got with the 7 elims plus the 2nd place. That's exactly what you want to see for Mr. Savage. He placed 14th day 1. And so far in the Invitational, Zeke, he has not had that top 5 performance that you really want to see going into the Grand Finals, because at the end of the day, he did win the most prestigious solo tournament ever since the World Cup, essentially. And I think he's on everybody's radar for favorites once he gets there.
That's right, man. He's making that case. He's like, look, guys, I know it's been a little weird, but it's time for me to stand above the rest yet again. Gentlemen, let's take a look at the standings, because that will tell us who is leading the pack. Is it still Noah? It is not. It is Lecce, who was in 2nd place, who is now pushed into 1st. And look who's right behind him now. Benji Fishy. Both are trying to take it away from Noah. Wolfie's there in 5th. Oh my God, there's so much to talk about.
Zeke, yes there is, man. Benji Fishy overtakes now into 2nd place. He was not in the top 5 yesterday. And don't forget, we just saw Mr. Savage have his game, but clearly Benji Fishy is also doing the same. And man, I just have to wonder if this is going to be the return of the famous duo Benji Fishy and Mr. Savage, because they're here today.
Hey, we're talking about duos. You cannot forget about Lecce, Wolfies. These guys are also 1st and 4th at the moment. We're talking about classics as well. Lecce, no wins. I'm talking about high eliminations, big box diving moments. This man is now in 1st place and kind of ahead of the competition. Almost 20 points in total. We'll go over to the next page too. So many more names. Mongrel trailing right behind 15th place, 2 wins. Things are looking closer than ever.
And I think that this 2-day format is really showing us what intense storylines can unfold for us in competitive Fortnite, because at the top, man, it's going to be tight all the way through. And even these guys have potential to get right back up there. It's only a 50-point gap, Zeke.
Oh my gosh. Taking a look at the next set of standings, down all the way in 30th, 172 points. More names. Castry right there. The actual real Kiryachi left eye. Putrick there, aka mobile player for the rest of his life. Chapik 72. This is a close top 30, gentlemen. It is still anyone's game. 10 games is so much more. Let's look out to 80th place right now. 133 points. Now, this is kind of what we estimated, Bala. Like, we kind of had a good idea coming out yesterday.
Yeah, and I think actually, Zeke, it might be slightly ahead of pace what everybody expected on day 2, because I think people are just playing more aggressive, which means that the best of the best are going to have to have better and bigger games to expand the lead, because at the end of the day, what I was projecting was around 183 points, 185, maybe up to 190 if it continues like this.
I mean, the one thing, though, you talk about pace, right? There's multiple people at this pace right now. The tiebreaker is going to be the biggest thing. If you're talking about just 1 or 2 points up moving in the leaderboard for the competition, you are neck and neck with so many others. Right now at 80th, I believe it's a 133-point tie. And that's really important, because that means if you're winning games, and there are people who do win and end up at 80th, it'll be the one ticket to your way for those grand finals.
Yeah, and I think it's players like Scrib, who won their game yesterday, who are not all the way up in that top 80, who are going to come ahead in that tiebreaker. So that's the first one, the Victory Royale, Zeke.
That's right, gentlemen. I don't want to keep you guys waiting any longer. It is time to get into the next game of EU. Let's go, Bala. Let's go, Shy.
And this is where the hype starts to just get all the way to maximum levels. It's Wolfies who we're tuning in with. 4th place so far, 62 points just for today. This is now, I would honestly say, the end of EU, but we're only really kind of halfway through it at the moment. Looking to lock things out. It just feels like things are in that grand finale stage. Just look at who's here right now. It's Skype. It's multiple people, 5 in total at the agency. If you thought duels was hard.
Sky and Vato were nowhere to be found. One of the best duos in the world, ostensibly. Not there in duos. We didn't see them in the grand finals. We didn't see them in any of the Sunday finals almost, because of Wolfies. So if this goes to a head, if they do engage, that is just poetic.
When you have the FNCS go on for so long, when you see the people dropping at the same spot over and over, these stories will naturally develop. And right now, Wolfies' aim looking completely unnatural. His movement as well, my lord. I'm not sure if these henchmen are turning into players, but he's walking through them like it's no problem. Still, a lot more challenges available and ahead. No challenge.
There it is.
Skype, though, for Wolfies, taken out straight up. History almost repeating itself.
There it is. Wolfies against Skype, and Wolfies is the champion of this engagement right here. And we might be seeing, possibly now, as we saw the overall standings, Wolfies was in 4th place, I believe. We might be seeing him start to push his way all the way up to 1st, overtake Letchi, his former duo partner, overtake Benji at the top. And yes, he is going to collect the drum gun before then hunting and before getting towards his final prey. Although there is somebody lurking in the water right now, possibly going to try to third party as the vault gets open, but I don't think it's going to really matter, because Wolfies right now already 3 eliminations and he's at max HP. To make anything easy, it's Aimson's. He was trying actually to act like a henchman there, Shio, but it did not work. Not even close.
Man, people looking like they're just trying to do the tutorial for Fortnite right now. People trying to get every strategy possible, but it's not going to work when Wolfies is moving in and just looking straight for high elimination counts. Remember, the big games that we see from him, they don't actually start off this explosive. Right? Like, they're usually these end game pop-offs. You were saying that's kind of where right now he's having a little bit of issues in that sense. But early game 100% is where he's just holding things strong. He still knows that Minnie's around as well, and Minnie will do his best. I think the third impression we're going to see of a henchman so far, the Wolfies, just like he takes them out at agency every day, it'll be soft work for him if he even chooses to go for the vault. I can't imagine not, right? I mean, everyone that ends up dropping Mythic POIs, they have to pick up those big shields, the free launch pad. It's just about how he's going to move in and get in. These henchmen will give away his location at every single rotation. It'll be that final 50-50 for him.
If you're wondering why he's running around like a madman right now, He's actually trying to clear out the space, trying to make sure that there's nobody lurking, and there is somebody right underneath these stairs right here. Found himself a pretty unique position, but Wolfies is clearing everything out. Even breaks that wall down, but still. He's doing this before the vault opens. He's right on the other side. I think he heard them. Yes, the crouch. It's not completely silent. Yes, it's a little bit more. But no, he finds him. He knows where he is. An engagement, and he melts him. Oh my goodness, Wolfies. That is ridiculous, and now it is free. Now the agency is open, although I see one more arrow. Yes, it's Luca coming in. This might be another collection of a free elim for Wolfies as he finally gets to that vault.
An ultimate game of cat and mouse. Wolfies is the one to have that big cheddar after it all ends, both in points and loot. Now we'll see X8 on the other side of things, kind of calm. Wolfies' fate left mysterious, but I guarantee we'll see him in a box and endgame and know exactly what ended up happening at the agency.
So, walk with me for a second as I take you down storytelling lane, because I was looking yesterday for the, I don't know, origins of Noah Riley, the player in second place right now, the player who was in first after day one. And looking all the way back, I didn't really see too many results for him besides maybe a first place in a Trios Cash Cup, a very difficult Trios Cash Cup, way earlier on, back in Season X. But then, as time goes through, you see him not really do too much in competitive until he gets picked up by X8, the player we're watching right now, as a duo partner throughout the season lasts. And so now we're seeing X8 possibly riding on the momentum of his duo partner, his friend from last season, as he's at 47 points right now, and we didn't really see much out of X8 in the last couple of seasons. Maybe that is moving him, and yes, it is! There it is, 2 eliminations for X8. And a beautiful one at that. That piece control was marvelous on the backside of that, not letting his player escape at all, but now he's getting a little bit too high, in my opinion. This is a little wild. Yes, he does get knocked out, but that's quick. I think that's actually good to keep this level down.
And also to set the pace of exactly what this player wants to do. Knowing how someone plays low ground, if they're hyper aggressive, they want to go for your builds, just shows you the possible shots they can take. And once again, ramping over. Although he does get to a disadvantageous spot, it's builds that he owns previously, he dives back into. Now going all the way down, it's Stompy, so a big person to face. Apocalypto's here as well to start things and make them even more heated. Meanwhile, X8 just tries to wait things out, definitely maybe a little bit too much in over his head.
I think Stompy got angry. He saw Grotto owner X8 in the feed, and Stompy was like, no, 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 you know that's me, my friend. You know that's me, as it was Stompy and Aqua, completely uncontested through pretty much every single weekend of Grotto after the start of it, because there was no chance for everybody. And they really put it to work because they placed very, very well. And I think it's, don't take my word for this, but I think Apocalypto is a mobile player playing in this weekend's FNCS Invitational as a solo. I believe it's possible. I know there's a mobile player somewhat with a similar name, as now it's actually Stompy versus him as X8 dives down in the river and tries to make his way out. And I think he did successfully disengage, but right into another foe.
I mean, if he is on mobile, there's 2 ways this fight could go. Or 3, actually. Stompy could take out Apocalypto. Apocalypto could get a big pump, a big tack shot onto Stompy. Or a phone call could come through. And that fight could end before it even starts. So we'll see, hopefully, if these guys can survive to the point where service isn't too good enough for Apocalypto to receive a call. But Stompy, once again, is all the way high up. We saw him use a lot of builds before with X8, so he might not have enough to fight out in this one. Still holding out his lead in the fight in terms of position. HP, though, being traded out, no shields. His opponent dropping down. Notice how every single box, about 5 mats, is exactly what Apocalypto is using. Meanwhile, Stompy is just trailing behind 1 pyramid per. A huge investment here. Now the mat situation possibly even out. No control over what's happening in the middle, but no, the third party. It'll be Slove, who shoots him from long distances. Now the issue for even about having, you know, everything rather than just mid-game fights, it's about doing it over and over again over 2 days. And man, we're looking at people who have had effects on multiple games we've watched over there at Salty Springs. Wolfie, we have Skylar, who won that last game, and then we have Fremok as well, who delved down, got one of the last shots in so many different zones. This competition, every single game, no matter what it's in, who's in it, is just stacked straight to the walls. It'll be Dako, who we saw get taken out before. Jachu, who got second place almost in a game before as well. Just trying to survive.
Toos in this too. A number of previous game victory royales or victory royales, however you want to say it. And one thing that's definitely going through here in these games is that they might look less difficult as Dako starts things off with the classic bush strat. I don't think there's much to comment on. There's some things that make these look a little easier, but at the same time, they're just more difficult because as these games get less and less stacked, as people get more and more desperate, there's a lot more to deal with, a lot more variables that you have to keep track of, such as things like this, Dako playing in the bush, such as people going to dive on you because they need not just good placement games, they don't just need wins, they need eliminations with them too. They need the power weapons to be able to convert on them. Things get risky. Mr. Savage, who we just saw get that second place in the last game against Airwax, is in this one too. So now we're thinking, okay, Wolfie's in this. I'm going to guess Airwax is in this game too, because it was first and second, right? So the queue times, unless Mr. Savage was like the last person for whatever reason to fill this game, I'd highly doubt that. He's probably in this one too. So we have Wolfies, we have Mr. Savage, we have Airwax, we have Toos, we have Freemock. I mean, the list goes on, man. Jachu in this one too. Probably players who are at the top of day 2 performances so far.
There's no free fight, basically, available at any box. There's no free layer where the game might seem easier. Even trying to delve down to ultimate low ground, you basically get into the dungeon of Mr. Savage. And no one literally can escape. We saw it last game. And now Item will be box to box with him. Or just close by, base to base. This zone, though, will be, I think, the most interesting one we've seen today thus far. Agency Rivers in tandem with a big mountain. And some natural hilly low ground.
I'm trying to spot Wolfies because I saw him in Salty Spring. And yes, Airwax is in the game with 100 points, mind you. So he's up there. Oh my goodness, the player gets right next to his box. I was scared for a second. I was trying to spot Wolfies because he was at the agency. He got those, 6 elims to start things off. And then I saw him in the mid-game somewhere in Salty Spring. So maybe moving a little bit more aggressively, but also he wasn't really positioned to fight. But now he has to move back in this third zone. And center is right on that mountain range, so we could have that involved. We could have an agency endgame, which is always interesting. And by the way, Airwax was outside of the range. Nikov already missed qualification. His former teammate and the people that, I mean, you think Airwax, you instantly think Nikov. Nikov did not make it to this stage, so Airwax is holding the banner for both of them. And it was looking rough on day 1. 55 points, 208th place. He's up there now, though. 155-ish is what he's going to be at with the 100 points that he has so far. Potential for us to see Airwax back in his prime in the solo mode.
There's a bunch of people who were popping off at some point or high up on the leaderboards. I saw Astro SMZ back there, who both in trios as well as duos in some points was very good at surviving and placing all the way consistently up high, but not always hitting that super top spot. He's trying to find a name for himself too. The map now kind of divided because the zone is so central. We're not going to see that much of a heavy congestion on either side, north, south, east, or west. It'll be a nice even spreading, and you'll get bases like these that can just delve into box fights very fast. Both Yora and Mitch, the tension, if one player just feels like they're getting a little bit confident, if the other player shows a sign of weakness, they can delve out into a big base or a lot of noise that other people can just react off of. Still, this will be the hardest zone to rotate into. There's going to be so many bases all the way around from fourth or from third to fourth to zone. And right now, what I was saying earlier, this box fight already starting to develop. Mitch does have the shields to upkeep the pressure. And right now, it'll be Yora who's actually taking a lot of the pressure from third parties. Mitch finally getting into the box, letting the server weaken down his enemy first, and then just picking up the spoils. Easy peasy, no questions asked.
He takes the linear to the face. The SMG. A little bit of his own threats to basically everybody else in the lobby. Skylar is the player with the grappler. And funnily enough, I was going to say Aerox is going to follow him up, but there's really nothing to follow for Skylar. As there's no old builds, but he is going to try to fight for a very, very good position. Use the reverse stairs to back away on that wall as he crosses it, but also connects to that. So makes it pretty good for him. He's actually keeping this tree up for the time. Or that could possibly already be gone. He's actually going to look back at the player he was just passing. And I think now the wall, he was going to try to chop that down, but no, it's going to end up going against him. And now he's got flesh wounds in for Airwax, and he even gets the wall. Can he get the edit back? I think he's even on that side of the wall. He edits in. Finally, he's getting close, but not yet. Not all the way there. Where is he? There. Oh, wait. It wasn't even a shotgun shot. I thought it just didn't show the audio, but no, he fell to his death. Tried to edit out, but I think he ran out of materials there, Shia.
Yeah, that's what happens when you have that overinvestment. The fight goes on too long. The hunter can't actually stop his prey from getting away. Still, though, gets a slight reward. The points are there, but now a little bit lower on what he started on overall. Mats 4ZR will be box to box with who I was talking about earlier, Astro SMZ. And he'll have a amazing loadout to play with. One that he can translate if he picks up an elimination to floppers for the end game as well. We've seen how good they are for the agency right now, looking to take walls once again, a pattern we saw last game as well, failing to for the first time. Trying to get as aggressive as possible, but what a weird angle to take this fight in. Completely down below, actually baiting out the edits of Astro. He goes down. Not weird at all, just really smart, because if I didn't see it coming, the player definitely can't either.
Shai, it could be weird and smart at the same time, because that was one of the most unusual fights I've ever seen, a box fight vertically like that. And I'm always impressed when people go for reaches like that. I mean, the heavy snipe from down below, 3 layers up, was already something to grab the wall and then try to edit that. But then to actually control the space below him, control that wall, have it pre-edited for the room, because as he got sprayed, the first reaction for you is to go down back into your old base. That wall is no longer yours, man. It was gone since the beginning of that. You just forgot. So Astro getting outplayed by another very strong player in 4ZR. Probably one of the better of the French-speaking players. I mean, there's so many of them. The French community just so solid. You can name Airwax, Nikov, 4ZR, Kinstar, I mean, Andalex, Nate. The list goes on.
The one thing I'm seeing develop right now in these mid-game fights is the use of actually baiting out the third party to do a lot of the damage for you and then you cleaning up. We saw 4-0 do it there. He just used that third-party presence as a distraction for Astro to forget about the ball, as Bala mentioned. And now right here, Crack also going down, trying to just run away from a fight that was happening before. It'll be Flame, someone completely different who wasn't there picking things up. That third-party presence, the shots coming in from the rest of the server, are just so hard to both get away from, but then keep you focused on that fight once again. And we know how good Flame can be at multitasking. Even him himself finds issues once he gets targeted by the entire lobby. Hard find now. Will look to push this, or to take the torch basically for the rest of this game.
No long range though. He has the heavy sniper. The SMG's not going to get it done at that range. Mind you, this is Astro SMG's partner, so a duo partner from FNCS. There's no partners in solos, as much as people might sometimes think that. Hard find looking forward though. SMG in hand, heavy snipe as well. He is a controller player, and he does get involved in close range fights a lot. And with the heavy snipe and SMG, that's the perfect combination, but that pump is not really going to do much, especially as a green one. In endgame, that's probably one of the weakest weapons that I could possibly imagine holding. And no launch pad for him too, so he hears everybody going by right now, and he's left in the dust.
Ooh, and he's got 2 different options. He can either follow through on the trails of everyone else, or because he's just seen so many people flying over, it's free reign to walk basically to the closest launch pad he can get. No one's looking at him right now. Everyone's just focused on making their bases, and because of that, he can do what you said he would. Get straight into a box, pick up big loot, and a huge steal in the pop as well. That's 2 people that went down. A free launch pad a huge buff up to his entire inventory. Still no AR though. He's looking to box dive over and over again.
But don't forget, there's big players in this one. Wolfie's still in the game. Mr. Savage somewhere probably too. I mean, we remember the list that we had at the start of this. Trulex in here. Mr. Savage still up. Snappy too. 4ZR, we just saw him get the elimination. Fremont as well. And I think the grappler players still, from the beginning of what we saw, might be in this too. And where's Airwax? That's my question. Is he actually on height?
I mean, him and a lot of other people might be seeing a lot of tears because of the waterworks happening down below at low ground. These people are going to have to basically fall past a no man's land. Right now, no one wants to be in Hardfine's box, who gets it really easy over and over again, picking up people who are just trying to rotate. Is it perfect positioning? Is it just really good timing? I'm not sure, but it looks good regardless. He's still moving on. One of the best mid-ground positions in zone. The big threats for him. There's Airwalks right above and Trulex down below. I was going to say threats, non-existent right now. He gets taken out. Behind him, though, that low-ground warrior, Savage, now looks to just basically go back to his throne. Pink UK in front of it, the person he has to basically usurp, but Hardfind is the main person that we're focusing on. Mid-ground right now, Airwalks right above him. Who is he going to go for next? Who is the next target?
We're wondering right now because so much room for Hardfind to work with. So much potential now with the legendary pump. Snappy takes out Fremont, and there he goes. Hardfind on the Pinkuk, and that's hard times. He's going to take you down and laugh when you cry because this man is on a tear. Airwax goes down to Kazix, another one. Wolfies, a 7th place game for him again, and another one for him. Zocco goes right out. Now Snappy's still up in this game. Flopper player for Hardfind now. So many people up on high ground. You got to be careful. The beams are possible. It's legendary. Snappy on mid ground. Hardfind underneath. And then Kazix down on low. Snappy he's out. The game is over for him. And now a 1 versus 1. The pump. Yes. Hardfind does it again onto Kazix. The SMG comes in huge for him in the final moments.
This man just strolled his way straight to a win. Absolutely effortless. From the box that we saw him in, all the way to the final moment in the 1v1, I don't think he broke a single sweat. That was one of the easiest games I've seen from Hardfind. He just makes it look so good.
That was ridiculous. Zeke, I cannot understate the amounts of things that Hardfind did in that end game. No, it wasn't Mr. Savage with the 8 elims or whatever it was in the last game, but it was still fantastic because remember, from the start of that, he was kind of in a weird position. Didn't have the launch pad. He had the heavy sniper, he had the SMG, but he wasn't quite finding what he needed. Eventually he did though, and that's what happens when he gets those opportunities.
And guys, you got to talk me through like how that all unfolded because like what do you have to be focused on and like the numbers in your mind? It's basically like that meme where you're seeing all the numbers, the equations in your head, and you're like, all this has to line up. Like what's going through these players' minds?
Okay, so for Hardfind specifically in that game, they're not numbers, they're basically players. He's playing basically what other people are doing. He's playing based off of what other people are doing first. So if you move first, he'll follow, see exactly, hey, are you paying attention to your back? Is your box safe? If not, you're in there. And it's not like, a structured fight. It's an easy one that he just takes.
And I think that's key. It's players that are going around in his mind, but it's also the battlefield. As the zone moves, he's literally visualizing all the different layers and seeing what he can get from it. Zeke, that is what it takes to become a very strong endgame Fortnite player.
That's right, guys. Well, for now, we do have to go to a break. When we return, we'll have another set of casters and more games from EU. So stay tuned, Fortnite fam. We'll see you after this break. What is going on, Fortnite fam? We are back. This time we've got Monster D-Face, we got Sundown, and we are here for the last few set of games here out of EU before finding out who will be the top 80 that are pushing through to Grand Finals. Gentlemen, we've seen some crazy games. We've seen standings. No one is safe up there. I mean, I don't even know how else I could better set this up. These last two games are going to change everything, Monster.
I mean, we saw the OCE region players like Volks pick up that consistency, go back to back. We're seeing Benji do it again this week. He did it last week. This kind of this rising star, people finding the formula to really bring out the full out equation. So I'm excited. I want to continue to see how it plays out. This is a big week. There's still money on the line too. So, you know, overall, it's a crazy weekend. It's still good competition.
I look forward to seeing how the things go. All the games to be played. I did, without spoiling anything, I got word this next game is going to be spicy. Sundown, I want to get some of your insight. I want to lean on you a little bit. What do you think, man? You've seen the standing shift. You've had time to kind of talk in the green room there. I mean, what do you think we can expect? Do you think we're going to see someone crazily come out of outside of 80? Do you think we're going to see people hold on? Give me your thoughts.
I mean, generally we've seen kind of now the top fives in each one of these regions as we start getting in the game now have really been able to separate themselves from everyone else and are starting to be a little more consistent. And Benji is one of those players, and we're really starting to see how, despite everyone saying solos is completely different, I would say, yes, in terms of the top 100, we're seeing kind of a different list, but in terms of the top 5 in each one of the regions, there's usually 1 or 2 players you can kind of hang your hat on for performing well, and that's really maintaining to be true.
Yeah, and I mean, you can take a look right there, guys. Here's the way that the placements and the points kind of all break out. It's 4 points per elimination. There's the breakdown. That gap between second place and first place is kind of substantial. You'll see that the victory rides heavy in this format and the way things kind of play out. But hey, you get placement as far as 75th. Here's Benji Fishy, the king of Retail Row. And more importantly, Sundown, we're seeing Moki find success even in a landing spot like Benji. And we might just see an engagement right now between the two.
Yeah, and she's closing in over on the side. Needs to be careful, though, because Benji has already consumed his shields, whereas she's sitting on a 50 pot. Benji pushes through right away, and that's the difference maker right there. No additional HP. The shields on Benji being enough, and he's going to capitalize on that, sending Moki back right away, as we also see Light and Pink UK picking up elims on 2 other high-level contenders. So a little bit of interesting exchanges going on, some aggressiveness coming out of Europe, but a nice trap set up for Benji. You saw him on the other side of the door, putting the cone down to immediately force Moki forward into his shot, and he was the one who's taking advantage there, as Kaizen now taking some shots from the side, but Avesta also moving down on the flank.
Definitely is. Here's Kaizen now, just kind of in the Misty Meadows. We saw that one game where Misty had upwards of nearly 10 players. Now still heavily contested, though. Kaizen has 2 more threats and another off to the lodges. Back behind him, Southern. Let's see, though. These guys are making a lot of sounds, obviously, on their farm. You can hear the shots going down. He wants a piece of the action. He's going to come from the outside. It's going to be a 79 shot. That player had full shield as he jumps into the box. The phone take. And the 50-50 is Boyd who falls down. It's Avesta. And that's going to be the elim for him. He comes up, though. He gets minis, more than enough to kind of bounce back here. That blue tactical shotgun, great for the early game.
Yeah, I mean, the rare tactical shotgun, it has great rate of fire, decent spread going in there. I mean, up until you get into kind of like the legendary and the epic, you're not going to find a better weapon early on. And then you pair it with the blue SMG as well, which gives you such great wall penetration factor, and you're able to kind of get on top of people. Right now, Kaizen, though, looking to try and find this other player right now.
Hunting already found his stride here this game. A little upgrade, too, on the SMG right there. A little cone, nicely done, and now trying to step aside. These are not his walls, and because of that, the slowdown. So Kaizen finds another elimination of Misty Meadows. The player that was off in the lodge is going to just back off. He wants none of the action here, trying to make it later into the rounds here. We're off to the other side now. Looks like we're on the bridge, possibly outside of the farms or Retail Row. Oh, definitely looks like the farms here. It's Jamie who's on defense, holding wall. Burst rifle, you know, it's an upgraded burst as well. Jamie's got a fair amount of points.
Monster. He doesn't have a shotgun, so it's like this is kind of an awkward situation where he doesn't want him to close distance, but he also does because he has to jump on top of him with the blue SMG. He's kind of trying to bait this player to go into his box because otherwise there's not really going to be a way to exchange. And you can see him already looking at the river and considering maybe seeing if he can drop down and disengage.
Yeah, definitely. And something to note about Jamie, as he's on defense right now, he needs this here. He's having a much better day 2 than he did at day 1. He's already maxed out as far as his points go in comparison to the first day, capitalizing on his second win here, showing that the 2-day formats are best for consistency and for the players here. This wall is very weak, though. He's going to wait for that opportunity. He steps right out and meets them and greets them with the SMG right there. Well played to Jamie. And this is what I mean by players finding their strides on different days. Very well kind of situated for him, Sundown.
He was able to get a huge upgrade there, going all the way to the Epic Heavy Sniper and the Epic Burst. And as we switch on over, we have Nuji Dookie in a fight over here. Does have the Epic Tactical Shotgun, so going to be able to put out some relatively painful shots, but he is sitting only at 160 effective HP and starting to get kind of down there on builds. He's stuck mainly on wood with only kind of the 5-brick heavy builds, and you can see him already desperately trying to retreat back through the house, kind of change up this fight a little bit. He's saying, nah, I don't like that fight out there. You can come to me. I know where I'm strong. And he sees that cone placed down, so should have a little bit of an advantage right here, at least in terms of information, but going to give that up in favor of just floor coning that off, saying, no, I don't want this fight. If you're going to come in here, I'm going to make sure I own all of these pieces. Good little rip flip, but honestly, I'm not really sure if he really wants to take this fight. They are in the safe zone, so they kind of want to establish control over this, but in reality, I think the smarter play is to just back out of this.
Yeah, definitely does have some options, as now he's getting pressured back. A clever angle from the opponent, taking the kind of wall right here. He is going to grab this time, though, so still maintaining control of his surroundings, opening up the window opportunity angle right there, and now he's going to jump down. Although Dookie does have a mega shotgun, a power shotgun, he's not necessarily looking to put it to use right now. Still being very timid, very passive on the playstyle. Getting caught off guard now. He's on the back foot again here. Managing to pop a shot. This is not looking good. Sundown, but it doesn't matter. The 149, the bailout, and that's what I meant by the power shotgun. The damage and the upgraded variance is so good. Can bail you out of any situation, and Dookie finds himself there. What looked like otherwise would have been a loss for him. He probably would have gotten taken out.
And he desperately needed that, only scoring 58 points on day 1. And one thing to note there is, like, as soon as you hear the bandage cannon come out, you know he didn't pop any shields. You would have heard him. He'd been retreating the whole time. You have to assume you're going, but he almost overextended a little too much. We talk about right-hand advantage. In a third-person shooter, based off of which side your camera is on, you get a little bit more of a peek beforehand. That happens on your right-hand side in Fortnite. And you saw him just as soon as the player rounded the corner, he was completely in the tactical shot spray. Like, you're not going to miss that. All of the bullets hitting in the big 144 chunk. Take him out there. As now we're back on board here with Supremacy's Kaizen, getting a 38 headshot there. Again, that rare attack. We talked about how strong it can be, particularly being able to replace walls and get to 51. Knows his players on absolutely nothing. And Finest Tamir goes down, but Kaizen takes a nice little headshot for his trouble dropping down and doesn't have any white heals. So unless he can get these minis off, even then, going to be kind of at a disadvantage, but builds right up above Stormy right, and they're going to go to the sky here, Monster.
Oh, the predictable edit, though. Kaizen gets met with another shotgun shot now, and all of a sudden, he is in a very tight situation here. The low HP, the no more heals either. It's Stormy right who's trying to come up, trying to inch his way up to height here. Kaizen was just outside the bubble. He was just off track for making 80th yesterday, and I mean, today is looking not any better. He needs to really step it up, hence the fights. These are so important for him. He is going to find it. The 4th elimination for him this game alone here, seeming to be the big game that's kind of swinging. Has he found his stride, or is it too late is the question for Kaizen.
And he desperately needed that. He needed the shields, he needed the utility, he needed the time and the space in the builds, but he got it where, honestly, in the last moment, being a little aggressive, and you can tell he is trying to push a little bit. There is a sense of desperation. We're getting towards the end. There's 15 minutes left in the queue timers, and particularly with so few players left in the number of games people run through quickly, those queue time for this game long. So basically, you need to queue up like now, or maybe like I've seen some 10, 11 minute queues. So players need to be getting in. As you see the minigun just barely winning that trade, and Jamie going to be sent back to lobby as we're closing in on the top 50 players left here. But this is the back half of Europe, and everyone knows kind of what that bar is for. And if you're not safely inside of it, you're going to be pressing a little bit. You're going to be trying to see, who can I catch out? Can I turn this into an elimination?
It is right. Talking about eliminations and trying to turn things around. Here's Benji Fishy, someone who is trying to continue to maintain the momentum that he's coming off of just in general for the solo track. You can see points are being rewarded for players just breaking over that 50 kind of threshold in this format. He's made a far trek through Lazy Lake, through players that in this lobby is probably like Let She, who lands over at Lazy Lake, and other big names. These kind of games have been so stacked in the EU division. You can see Marcus kind of planted up there, light down below. All players who are still very much on track. Talking about players on track, it's Wolfies. Wolfies is on track for a first place as well. We get to see the other perspective here from a player who's on defense. Let's see what it's like to go against a player like Wolfies. Wolfies already backed up, though, giving respect to Lazary, who we know has that minigun. Just came off of his elim. He's kind of situated right now. Gonna catch a couple shots here on Wolfies. We'll see if Wolfies holds a grudge. Wolfies is the type of player. He has that player tendency. If you really want it, he'll give it to you. He doesn't mind, especially when he knows he's in the lead as far as overall points going. Oh boy, he has control of the drum gun. He has that mythic weapon. He has more of a reason to take the fight now. This could be a big come up. There's shots coming in from both sides, and ooh, Lazary's now going to get shot in behind as well. So things are suddenly even. They both pause to heal up now. Wolfie's on the back foot though, Sundown.
You don't want to end up, I mean, it's okay to be on the back foot with the drum gun. It's definitely better going forward. However, the minigun matching the rate of fire and the fact that he's lower HP, he gets one solid burst onto him. That's going to be it. And Wolfies tries to make the drum gun go burr, but instead gets taken out. The tack shot, double tack spray coming through right away. And that's what we talk about, kind of the two things that can effectively end a drum gun coming in is either that immediate one pump or two really hard-hitting tack shots to kind of back it off. And even then, that's probably a 50-50, if not 60-40 fight to the drum gun most of the time. However, with the health disadvantage going through, it's going to make the drum gun that much less effective because the goal is just try and burn through your opponent's HP bar and trade the fact that you're going to get hit, but you're going to eliminate them faster than they'll be able to trade out the 200 onto you. Wolfies didn't go in that fight with 200, and Luxury was able to just completely take him down there, as now we flip on over to become Legends Anas. You also see mobile player Patrick hanging out on the side. Anas with the heavy sniper trying to line up a beat here. This player trying to be sneaky, but
no.
That feels so bad. You think, oh, I'm in a great spot. There's no way, but you're never quite safe in Fortnite. Even then, 45 players left going to Zone 3. This is what we consider a quote-unquote sparse game at the competitive level. But when you're on the edge of zone, you have to assume somebody else is there. You can't just be walking up and hiding up against a rock. Like, somebody will take advantage of it, and Anas going to be able to do that no problem, as we're just above Slurpy Swamps over by that dam there. And Anas continuing to try and put this heavy sniper to work. It was tampered with a little bit by those ghost agents. However, still going to one-shot walls and one-shot headshots. The 137, the body ain't bad either, as Mongrel goes down there. A great shot from Anas.
Big shot. Anas coming off of a hot streak from yesterday. I mean, he finished 36th place for his first day. It's not bad at all. Or I mean, from his first week, excuse me, as far as overall performance. So, picking things up, continuing the push here. The second day is kind of crazy. Mongrel put down. Here's Ping UK, now kind of hiding out on the beachfront. You remember, Benji was situated up on the mountain just above this. That means Ping is sitting alongside players like Light. You see Tohaj, Mr. Savage, Flame, Kaizen. We know Marcus has height over all of this as well, kind of looking down on the playing field here.
And Robob's just above them as well, another player from Train H. We talk about it, and these are a bunch of European players we've seen before, and a couple of new guys desperately trying to kind of claw up here, but all of them seem to generally be falling mostly short. There's a reason this old guard has been here so long. They're all so incredibly talented in these environments, whether it's being able to aggressively play for eliminations against some of the best in the world, or play kind of in these stacked end games. They have the capability of doing both, but Mr. Savage is in a really awkward spot here where if the lobby decides to kind of choose him, there's not a whole lot he's going to be able to do about it. There's about 6 people who are looking directly at him.
100%. I mean, the RPG is the one that'll decide that too. Just enough rockets come in and all of a sudden the focus comes into you. I have a feeling though Mr. Savage is looking to make a play of his own as he's kind of canvassing the playing field, trying to figure out probably if there's anyone that can otherwise get into this fight, because it seems like between him and Kaizen, he's got something personal going on. He's not losing focus on this player right now. Probably waiting till he opens up the box to rotate or something like that to try to follow on in. Notice he also blacked off his behind, right? So he's not too worried about any other factors, just the one in front of him. Here's Benji, Fishy's perspective. These are the players we want to see, players that are obviously dominating, the players that at this point I think it's safe to say we'll see in the grand finals because of their day 1 into day 2 track performances already. So this is going to be it's already shaping out to be a great competition leading into the grand finals.
And you can see we do get that 4th zone revealed now. If you look in the bottom right-hand corner, a number of players are going to have to make at least a short rotation to get in. Luckily, so far, most of it is overland. However, we do have a lot of that lake in play for the moving zones, which could end up being a factor, causing people to try and preserve as many builds as possible, knowing that if they do have to go out over that lake, things will get awkward very, very, very quickly. You can see here now, though, Tohaj, Eric, Magnus, Benji, Marcus, Chapix, Saudi, Bad Sniper, Hawkers, so tons and tons of European players who we're used to seeing in this stage, continuing to try and make it. We've talked about it. The queues have 8 minutes left in them, so players desperately need to try and be getting in their games, try and get into the last final chance, because this is what it's all about. You either hit the top 80 here or you're thrown into the reboot round with kind of the rest of that field to fight for a top 20 spot over 10 games to get into the grand final.
And I mean, we're already looking at what it takes to hit top 80, and you can see it's performances, big performances. So the reboot round is going to be that much more difficult. You're going to need honestly the plays of your life to get out of there. But we'll see here Benji finally turn on the gas pedal here at an unprecedented time. Okay, it's because the storm is already moving, so he waited. Notice how the entire lobby waited until the storm started moving, and now 4th zone's looking like a war zone. Prior to this, it was so calm, literally right before the storm. So here's the shot. He's gonna find some whites here. Can he find the one more to connect and take this player out? He's not even trying to reload right now. He does want to lose the opportunity, and it is gonna pay off. It's gonna be Hawkers who falls down. There was another one there though. Notice Sundown, he's running out of medium. Yeah.
Just an absolutely fantastic angle. As soon as he got that first 25 white hit marker, he knew that player was going to have to try and come back around, knew there were more players trying to rotate around, and now we have our top 40, and pretty much everyone has been able to squeeze around that inside of the circle. Not too many players who are going to be moving or being taken down, and as I say that, Trulex actually catches somebody with a nice little snipe shot there, but this half-in, half-out reveal is really going to be key in terms of dictating what's going to happen with the rest of the lobby, and you see
to prove it and show it